Chapter 326. Third brother, are you going to meddle in this matter as well? Looking at the familiar figure in front of him, the eldest prince's face darkened. He initially thought that only he and the sixth prince, Ouyang Yuan, were interested in Ningyu. Now, it seemed that even the third prince, Ouyang Hai, was interested in Ningyu. If the sixth and third princes did not meddle, based on Ningyu's attitude towards him just now, it was very likely that he would accept the invitation. Since the sixth and third princes were involved, it would be very difficult for Ningyu to follow him to Tianming restaurant. Thinking about this, the eldest prince, Ouyang Ming, said in a deep voice, "No matter what, there should be an order of arrival." "Hehe, big brother, it's not up to you to decide where Ningyu wants to go today." The third prince, Ouyang Hai, smiled and said plainly, "It's not up to sixth brother either." "Oh." Ouyang Ming raised his eyebrows and said, "Who's up to it?" "Father." Ouyang Hai said. Ouyang Ming's heart skipped a beat when he heard Ouyang Hai's words. He felt that something was wrong. The first thing that came to his mind was not whether Ningyu would accept his invitation, but whether the emperor did not trust him. Since he was in charge of the imperial city's security, he was the one who passed on the message when the emperor wanted to find someone. Now that the third prince was the one who passed on the message, Ouyang Hai sensed something unusual. Ignoring the eldest prince's shock, Ouyang Hai slowly walked in front of Ningyu and said, "Father's original words were, 'Interesting, invite him to see me.'" Whoosh. This time, the surrounding martial artists all revealed horrified expressions. "Did I hear wrongly?" "You didn't hear wrongly. He did invite him to see me. Really, I can die without regrets if I live like Ningyu. If I can be as glorious as Ningyu, even if it's only for one day, I'll accept it." In fact, it was no wonder that the surrounding martial artists were shocked when they heard Ouyang Hai's words. It was because the emperor actually used the word please, which was very rare. One must know that even if the emperor wanted to meet some yin-yang realm monsters, he would rarely use the word please. Since he used the word please on Ningyu, it was enough to show how much he valued Ningyu. Ouyang Hai looked proudly at Ouyang Ming and Ouyang Yuan, and his lips curled into a smile. Then, he turned to Ningyu and said, "Stop wasting time. Hurry up and come with me. If you can gain father's recognition, you can basically do whatever you want in the capital. You are the third prince." "Ouyang Hai." Ningyu stared at Ouyang Hai and said calmly, "You want to invite me to the palace?" "That's right. This isn't my idea, it's father's idea." Ouyang Hai nodded. "Oh, so this is your attitude when you invite people." Shrugging, Ningyu waved his hand at the Dark Emperor beside him. "The outside world is too dangerous. Let's go back to Danwu College and have a shelter." After saying that, Ningyu lifted his leg and was about to leave. Swoosh. However, before he could leave, Ouyang Hai's figure flashed and blocked his way. "Father wants to see you, are you deaf?" Ouyang Hai was very angry. As the third prince, when had he been ignored like this? Moreover, the person who ignored him was only at the early stage of true martial realm. Because Ouyang Hai came from the palace, he was not clear about what happened here. He only knew that Ningyu and Wenyi from Snow Pavilion had a conflict. "If your father wants to see me, he will have to see if I have time." Ningyu said word by word, "Now, I have to go back to Danwu College to do something. I won't be accompanying you for the time being." "Humph. You refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit." With a cold snort, Ouyang Hai took a step forward. He gathered all the essence in his body on his wrist and punched at Ningyu. Seeing that Ouyang Hai dared to attack Ningyu, Ouyang Ming and Ouyang Yuan took a step back. They were very clear that Ouyang Hai was courting death. Even if Ningyu did not personally make a move, the little dog beside him would not sit idly by. Moreover, the most important thing was that the pinnacle expert behind Ouyang Hai had been waiting here since the beginning. They did not believe that the expert behind Ouyang Hai would let Ouyang Hai do as he pleased. Ouyang Hai did not know the battle prowess of Ningyu and his little dog, but the expert behind Ouyang Hai clearly knew. Seeing that Ouyang Hai's fist was about to land on his head, Ningyu's lips curled into a smile and he slowly closed his eyes. Bang! In the next moment, a muffled sound was heard. A figure was blasted several feet away and fell heavily on the ground. The figure that was blasted back was none other than Ouyang Hai. Fart. Ouyang Hai spat out a mouthful of blood and his face was gloomy. Crawling up from the ground with difficulty, Ouyang Hai shouted in a low voice, "Ningyu, how dare you attack a prince in public? I say, which eye of yours saw me attack?" Ningyu smiled faintly. "Open your dog eyes and look. The one who attacked you just now was not me, but him." As he spoke, Ningyu stretched out his palm and pointed to the other side. There, a little dog was lying on the ground with its tongue out. It turned around and gave Ouyang Hai a human-like smile. "The one who attacked me just now was a dog." Ouyang Hai's face was full of confusion. Just now, he clearly felt that he had hit Ningyu's body. Who would have thought that the one who was blasted back was him? Now that Ningyu said that he was blasted back by a dog, he would not believe it no matter what. Because he didn't sense the slightest fluctuation of energy from the little dog. In other words, the little dog was very ordinary. Not good. When Ouyang Hai said that the Dark Emperor was a dog, Ningyu realized that things were going to be bad. What the Dark Emperor hated the most in his life was other people calling him a dog. Ouyang Hai offended him. He definitely would not let Ouyang Hai off easily. Ningyu only wanted to probe the Emperor's intentions. He did not wish to blow things up. After all, once things blew up, it would not be beneficial to everyone. Swoosh. Right at this time, the Dark Emperor exerted some force with his hind legs and suddenly dashed out. The target was shockingly Ouyang Hai. The Dark Emperor's attack speed was very fast, so fast that even Ningyu was not prepared in the slightest. No matter what, Ouyang Hai was also a lobbyist sent by the Emperor. If anything happened to him, it would be slapping the imperial family's face. This crime, Ningyu could not afford to shoulder it. Bang! However, just as Ningyu wanted to stop the Dark Emperor, a black figure suddenly dashed out of the void and appeared beside Ouyang Hai at an extremely fast speed. Furthermore, this figure threw a punch out, perfectly landing on the Dark Emperor's stomach. Damn it! The huge force coming from his stomach caused the Dark Emperor to be blasted back dozens of feet, heavily crashing into the city wall. In fact, the Dark Emperor's body was embedded into the city wall. At the same time that he cursed, the Dark Emperor was also somewhat rejoicing. Rejoicing that when he attacked, he did not use his full strength and left some strength to defend against the danger that could appear at any time. Chapter 327. Swish. Ningyu stomped on the ground and instantly arrived beside the Dark Emperor. First, he pulled the Dark Emperor out from the wall. Then, Ningyu's soul force quietly entered the Dark Emperor's body and carefully checked his injuries. After a while, Ningyu withdrew his soul force from the Dark Emperor's body. "You're His Majesty's man?" Ningyu asked the black-clothed martial artist beside Ouyang Hai. "Elder Tan, you've been here for a long time?" Looking at the familiar figure in front of him, the shock in Ouyang Hai's eyes was especially obvious. "Why didn't you stop that dog the first time he attacked me?" Ouyang Hai's chest was heaving up and down, on the verge of exploding. Elder Tan was the pinnacle expert behind him. The reason why he could become a favorable contender for the Crown Prince position was mainly because of Elder Tan, a yin-yang realm martial artist. Without Elder Tan's support, he wouldn't even be worth a fart among the princes. "Third Prince, please watch your words." The black-clothed martial artist called Elder Tan said indifferently, "Since you want to know the reason, I'll tell you. You're out." As Elder Tan's voice fell, Ouyang Hai's heart skipped a beat. Out? What did Elder Tan mean? Swish. Suddenly, Ouyang Hai seemed to have thought of something and revealed an expression of disbelief. "Elder Tan, you said I'm out? Whose intention is this?" "Third Prince, don't you understand?" Elder Tan said, "This is His Majesty's intention." His Majesty's intention, His Majesty's intention, ha ha ha, Imperial Father's intention? Laughing out loud, Ouyang Hai's expression turned cold as he said gloomily, "This is impossible. Firstly, I didn't make any mistakes, and secondly, I didn't do anything out of line. What right does Imperial Father have to declare me out? From the moment His Majesty said you're out, you're already out. This is an indisputable fact, and no one can change it." Taking a deep breath, Elder Tan said, "His Majesty has decided to transfer you to West Mountain City." West Mountain City? Ha ha ha. Ouyang Hai seemed to have gone mad as he suddenly laughed out loud. The Western Mountain City was the most desolate city in the Great Xia Kingdom, and it was extremely far from the capital. Throughout the dynasties, West Mountain City had always been the destination of some frustrated princes. At the same time, Western Mountain City was also the most chaotic place, because the powers there were complicated. Without the protection of experts, going there would be no different from courting death. After a short burst of laughter, Ouyang Hai still considered his own safety. Elder Tan, can I bring a few people over? Of course. You should prepare for the next 3 days. 3 days later, someone will follow you to Shishan City. Old Tan said. Can you tell me what level the expert is at? Ouyang Hai asked. After thinking about it, Old Tan walked straight to Ouyang Hai's side and whispered a few words in his ear. What? Ouyang Hai jumped up and glanced at Ningyu from the corner of his eyes. Letting him go to Western Mountain City with me is no different from sending me to my death. Ouyang Hai said coldly, I want to see Royal Father, I want to tell Royal Father personally. Third Prince, this is your chance. Old Tan whispered to Ouyang Hai, you better prepare for the next 3 days. As long as you can join forces with him and gain a firm foothold in Western Mountain City within a month, then this Crown Prince position. Speaking until here, Old Tan patted on Ouyang Hai's shoulder and didn't continue. Taking a deep breath, Ouyang Hai fiercely glared at Ningyu. Shortly after, he rose from the ground and disappeared. With only 3 days, Ouyang Hai had to arrange everything properly. At the very least, he had to get his forces into Western Mountain City. The Western Mountain City might be in chaos internally, but they were still a solid block to the outside world. If he wanted to get his forces in, 3 days was indeed rather tight, and Ouyang Hai naturally didn't want to waste any of it. From Ouyang Hai's appearance to his departure, Ningyu always felt that something was amiss. It was as though there was a pair of large hands controlling everything. Keek, little friend Ningyu, the Emperor has invited you. I wonder if you will give him face. Just as Ningyu was letting his imagination run wild, Old Tan's voice rang in his ears. Since the Emperor invited me, logically speaking, I will definitely go, but, as he spoke, Ningyu suddenly changed the topic and said, I have something to do today and tomorrow, so I might not have the time. Ningyu's words once again caused an uproar at the scene. If Ouyang Hai's invitation was a little rash, and Ningyu couldn't be blamed for rejecting him, then Old Tan's invitation was very sincere. Old Tan himself was a yin-yang realm expert. Him coming out personally could be said to be giving Ningyu enough face. Is Ningyu stupid? Why wouldn't he agree to such a good thing? You're asking me? Yeah, of course I'm asking you. How the hell would I know if you're asking me? I'm not a roundworm in Ningyu's stomach. Old Tan seemed to have guessed that Ningyu would reject him. He smiled and said, it's fine. The time will be the day after tomorrow, and the venue will be at Tianyuan Tower. Tianyuan Tower. He was extremely shocked when he found out that the Emperor was going to choose Tianyuan Tower as the venue. Tianyuan Tower was the 6th Prince's territory, so it was impossible for the Emperor not to know. Since he chose Tianyuan Tower as the venue, could it be that the 6th Prince was already the Crown Prince? He could not help but tremble when he thought about it. Nevertheless, he was very shrewd, so he quickly hid it. Old fox, are you trying to use me as a weapon? Ningyu secretly became cautious. After all, the fact that the Emperor could control the massive Big Xia Kingdom was enough to prove that the current Emperor was smart. At the very least, given Ouyang Yangming's current cultivation base and strength, it was not enough to fight the Emperor. It was very likely that the Emperor did not treat him as an opponent and only treated him as a chess piece. The day after tomorrow, Tianyuan Tower. See you there. Ningyu suddenly smiled. Before he completely grew up, Ningyu knew that he had to restrain himself. However, he also became extremely careful. After all, he was involved in the change of the imperial family. A slight mistake would cause him to be doomed eternally. Great. Straightforward indeed. You're bold. The future belongs to young people with drive like you. We're already old. Swoosh. As soon as he finished speaking, Elder Tan's figure also turned illusory. In the end, he completely disappeared. There's a new variable in the Crown Prince contest. Quickly go back and inform the master. Yes, quickly go back. After this incident, there might be more princes emerging. No matter what, the first prince and the sixth prince are still the most promising candidates for the Crown Prince contest. We're only responsible for delivering the message. As for who we should support, it will be up to the clan's great ancestor. After Elder Tan disappeared, the hidden powerhouses left one after another. Among the hidden powerhouses, more than half of them took orders from the capital's second-rate and third-rate clans. These people's clans were fence-sitters who leaned towards both sides. The other half were neutral forces. These forces did not help or care about anyone. Chapter 328. Let's go to. Outside the capital, Wen Yi glared fiercely at Ningyu before leaving quickly. Behind him, Wen Pai dragged Liu Qing and followed closely behind. Ningyu, do you need me to help you? Seeing Wen Yi and Liu Qing leave, the Dark Emperor raised his front claw and slit his neck. Don't act recklessly. Follow me to Danwu College first. Shaking his head, Ningyu said, Wen Yi must die, but not now. Understood. The Dark Emperor knew Ningyu very well. Since Ningyu had sentenced Wen Yi to death, then Wen Yi would definitely die. As for when he would die, it was just a matter of time. Swish. Swish. Then, Ningyu and the Dark Emperor's figures flashed and disappeared in the blink of an eye. After Ningyu left, all the martial artists, including Ouyang Ming and Ouyang Yuan, left. With everyone's departure, the farce at the capital's gate also came to an end. Swish. No one knew that not long after everyone left, an old man appeared in this area. The old man took a deep breath and murmured, Dongfangji is a good dean. He actually found such a good seedling. His martial strength is so strong at such a young age, and his soul force has reached the early stage of grade 5. For such a good seedling like him, 6 hours of cultivation time in the Danwu pool is far from enough, the old man said, shaking his head. Suddenly, the old man seemed to sense something unusual, and his expression changed drastically. Releasing his soul perception, the old man carefully probed the area. After a while, the old man took a deep breath and revealed a grave expression. You're so careless. If that fellow were to sense your aura, I'm afraid your life would be in mortal danger. The old man looked at the imperial family and waved his sleeve, completely erasing the aura left behind by the Dark Emperor. That old fellow came pretty fast. After erasing the aura left behind by the Dark Emperor, the old man's expression changed slightly. After a cold snort, the old man tore open the void and entered. Shio. As soon as the old man left, a white-haired old man appeared. The white-haired old man released his perception and carefully searched for something. A moment later, the white-haired old man withdrew his perception. This doesn't make sense. I clearly sensed a trace of the heaven-devouring hound's aura. Why did the aura disappear without a trace here? The white-haired old man fell into deep thought. He cultivated a unique secret technique. Even if the aura left behind by the heaven-swallowing hound was very weak, he could accurately locate the location of the heaven-swallowing hound with his secret technique. With the heaven-devouring hound's aura, it was still all right. He could locate the heaven-devouring hound. However, without the aura of the heaven-swallowing hound, it would be impossible for him to find the heaven-swallowing hound no matter how capable he was. There isn't much time left. I must find a heaven-swallowing dog as soon as possible. Taking a deep breath, the white-haired old man rose from the ground and headed out of the capital. Meanwhile, Ningyu had already returned to Danwu College. However, the first person Ningyu went to find was Dongfangji, because he wanted to enter the Danwu pool directly. According to the rules of the Sacred Institute, Ningyu should have 6 hours to cultivate in the Danwu pool. Today, he would use up the 6 hours and strive to advance to the middle stage of the true martial realm. If he used all his trump cards, Ningyu could already contend with a late-stage primal core martial artist, or even kill him. However, against a peak primal core martial artist or even a half-step into the yin-yang realm, Ningyu would have no way out. Tomorrow was the wedding day of Wen Yi and Lu Wei. Ningyu knew that with his current strength, if he tried to force his way into Shuiyu Pavilion, it would be like throwing an egg against a rock. Even if Dongfang Ji was willing to help him, it would be difficult to rescue Lu Wei. Hence, Ningyu had an idea, an extremely crazy idea. As long as he could accomplish this, he would have the ability to force his way into Shuiyu Pavilion. At the very least, he would be able to contend with a yin-yang realm old demon. Ningyu, I just received news that you can enter the Danwu pool to cultivate at will. The time is unlimited. Standing in front of the stone gate to enter the Danwu pool, Dongfang Ji was a little shocked. This was the first time in the history of Danwu College that someone could enter the Danwu pool to cultivate at will. When Dongfang Ji received this news, the shock on his face was no less than Ningyu's. Dean Dongfang, are you sure? Ningyu asked uncertainly. I can enter the Danwu pool at will, and there's no time limit. Nodding, Dongfang Ji said, although that's the case, I suggest that you should not enter the Danwu pool for more than 6 hours each time. Because in the past, no student could last 6 hours inside. You are a core disciple of the Sacred Institute. I don't wish for anything to happen to you. Dean Dongfang, I know what to do. Ningyu's eyes revealed a fiery gaze. Although he didn't know why Dongfang Ji would make such a decision, this was the result he wanted. Xianming elders, please take care of Ningyu. Dongfang Ji bowed to the 2 old men guarding the gate and said respectfully, no problem. Hurry up and scram. I have an impression of this kid. I promise I will take good care of him. Elder Ming kicked Dongfang Ji's butt and pulled Ningyu into the stone gate. After being kicked by Elder Ming, Dongfang Ji didn't even dare to let out a fart and left with his tail between his legs. After entering the stone gate, Elder Ming carried Ningyu like he was carrying a little chick and brought him to the side of the Danwu pool. Swish. After that, Elder Ming flicked his wrist and threw Ningyu into the Danwu pool. Ningyu, if you can't last 4 hours at the bottom of the Danwu pool, I will throw you out and deprive you of the right to enter the Danwu pool in the future. Elder Ming said to Ningyu, stop looking and quickly enter the bottom of the Danwu pool. Otherwise, I will pull you out right now. Swish. Hearing this, Ningyu didn't waste any words and directly sank into the bottom of the Danwu pool. Old Ming, isn't it a little unkind for us to do this? Elder Shen frowned. What unkind? Don't forget our mission. Waving his hand, Elder Ming said, do you want to guard the Danwu pool for the rest of your life? Do you want to spend the rest of your life casually like this? Don't you want to pursue a higher level of the martial Dao? Old Shen, we don't have much time left. If we still can't break through, we might only have 1 or 2 years to live. Sighing lightly, Elder Ming continued, I'm afraid Ningyu is our last hope. As long as he can stay at the bottom of the Danwu pool until tomorrow morning, he will be able to activate the formation left behind by the first dean. At that time, our mission will be completed, and we can leave Danwu College at will. But, can Ningyu do it? Elder Shen frowned. Chapter 329. I don't know what's wrong with me to make me stay at the bottom of the martial pool for 4 hours. At the bottom of the martial pool, Ningyu could not help but complain. Although he also wanted to cultivate at the bottom of the martial pool, he could not be forced by Elder Ming. This made him very unhappy. You can't just let me stay for 4 hours, I'll stay for 4 hours. One must have ideals. Otherwise, how would he be any different from a salted fish? Ningyu, you said you would give it to me. Oh my God. The Dark Emperor darted out of the storage ring. Feeling the pure energy around him, he opened his mouth and ignored Ningyu as he began to devour with all his might. Bang! Seeing the Dark Emperor's anxious expression, Ningyu gave him a chestnut. Don't be anxious. Let me ask you a question. Ningyu frowned. Ask away. Don't delay my cultivation, the Dark Emperor said as he tried to devour the pure energy. Ningyu shook his head helplessly. How long will it take for you to advance to the late primal core stage? Late primal core stage? Hearing this, the Dark Emperor stopped. He stared at Ningyu and said solemnly, as long as you can guarantee that I can stay here until tomorrow morning, I will be able to advance to the late primal core stage. No problem. Gritting his teeth, Ningyu said, focus on cultivating. Don't ask about anything else. I will take care of it for you. Whoosh. As he spoke, Ningyu emerged from the bottom of the martial pool. Seniors, please, please, please don't be angry. Feeling the powerful aura from the Xianming elders, Ningyu said hurriedly, I have a favor to ask of you. Tell me about it, Elder Ming said with a raised brow. I can stay in the martial pool for 2 hours, or even more. Ningyu said slowly, I hope that no matter how long I stay here, you will not tell anyone. Including Dean Dongfang, Ningyu added in the end. I was wondering what it was. You actually came out from the bottom of the martial pool for such a small matter. Elder Ming was a little angry. His aura was released once again. You've already stayed at the bottom of the martial pool for 3 minutes. If you go in again, won't you lose? Whoosh. Before Elder Ming could finish, Ningyu's body sank to the bottom of the martial pool. Ningyu's time was also very precious. Since Elder Ming and the others had promised not to tell anyone, there was no need for Ningyu to stay on the surface of the martial pool. More than bringing the Dark Emperor into the martial pool secretly, Ningyu wanted to do something big. Red Devil, what's going on with you? How can you fuse with your main body? Ningyu's soul power entered the pendant's 3rd layer and carefully communicated with Red Devil. I've already used up all of the crystals you gave me. I still need a large amount of energy. The Hongmo's tone was rather urgent, clearly very anxious. How much energy is needed? Ningyu asked in a deep voice. I don't know the specifics. The energy you gave me, I only blasted a hole in the 7-star formation and took my main body out of the 7-star formation. The Red Devil said, if I want to completely fuse with my main body, I need a lot of energy, more than you can imagine. Upon hearing the Red Fiend's words, Ningyu fell into deep thought. 1 second. Ningyu only pondered for a second before he made up his mind to let the Red Fiend use its massive suction force to absorb the energy in the martial pool. Although it was risky to do so, riches came with risks. The greater the risk, the greater the reward. As long as the Red Devil could fuse with the main body, the Red Devil's combat power would increase to a terrifying level. At that time, even the Dark Emperor would not be a match for the Red Fiend. Ningyu felt that taking the risk for the Red Fiend was worth it. Gulp. Just as Ningyu opened the pendant, the Red Devil was like a dragon entering the ocean. Instantly, a powerful suction force was emitted from his body, and he frantically absorbed the pure energy around him. Red Skin, leave some for me. The Dark Emperor couldn't help but curse as he felt the pure energy around him disappearing rapidly. We share our blessings and share our troubles. Even a follower understands this logic. Why don't you understand it? Dark Emperor, stop absorbing the pure energy and enter the storage ring immediately. Ningyu said in a low voice, the Red Devil's movements are too loud. If you continue to absorb energy, I'm afraid you will be exposed. To tell you the truth, the 2 people outside are at the pinnacle of the yin-yang realm. Once your identities are exposed, it won't be a joke. Damn it, you're ugly. Whatever you say is right. The Dark Emperor wasn't a dog who didn't know the severity of the situation. He muttered to himself before turning into a shadow and entering the storage ring. Old Ming, have you realized that the martial pool today is a little different from before? Elder Xian frowned slightly beside the martial pool. Elder Ming was stunned and asked, what's different? The color of the liquid in the martial pool in the past was darker. Why is it a little lighter today? Elder Xian asked. Of course the martial pool is a little lighter today. The energy inside has been absorbed by that brat, Ningyu, Elder Ming said. Elder Xian still felt that something was amiss. Is there a problem with the energy supply? I was wondering why you were so suspicious. There can't be a problem with the energy supply of the martial pool. Elder Ming sighed and said, even if there's a problem with the energy supply of the martial pool, there's nothing we can do. That's true, Elder Xian nodded. What we have to do now is to pray silently and hope that Ningyu can stay at the bottom of the martial pool for a while longer, Elder Ming said softly. That's the only way. Ningyu didn't know about the conversation between the Xianming elders beside the martial pool. Right now, he was fully focused on helping the Red Devil. His early-stage Grade 5 soul power was deployed and entered the 3rd level of the pendant to watch over the Red Devil's body. As the Red Devil absorbed the pure energy in the martial pool, Ningyu realized that the Red Devil's condition was becoming more and more unstable. In the end, he even fell into a temporary coma. Fortunately, the coma didn't last long. The Red Devil woke up after a while. Otherwise, Ningyu really didn't know what to do. Ningyu, help me control my body. I can feel that the energy absorbed by my body will be enough in 6 hours. When that time comes, it will be the time for me to completely fuse with my body. The awakened Red Devil said to Ningyu. Don't worry. I treat you like a brother. Your problem is my problem. Not only did Ningyu use all his soul power, but even his 4 illusory golden cores entered the 3rd level of the pendant. Ningyu was very clear that this was a crucial moment. He had to do his best to ensure the safety of the Red Devil. Only then would the Red Fiend not suffer a backlash and be devoured by the main body. Chapter 330. Secondary Spirit Body. At that moment, Ningyu thought of this term. The so-called secondary spirit body was when a flying sword produced 2 spirit bodies. Of course, the 2 spirit bodies were produced one after the other. It was impossible for them to be produced at the same time. The conditions for a flying sword to produce a secondary spirit body were extremely stringent. There were a few requirements that had to be fulfilled. Firstly, the flying sword had to be a king-grade flying sword. Furthermore, it had to be a peak-level king-grade flying sword. Secondly, the secondary spirit body produced by the flying sword had to leave the flying sword due to various reasons. Thirdly, and also the most important point, the flying sword had killed many living beings and was stained with a lot of fresh blood. Only by fulfilling these 3 requirements could the flying sword produce a secondary spirit body. The only thing I can do now is to help the Red Fiend get rid of this secondary spirit body. Clenching his fists, Ningyu's eyes were filled with determination. The secondary spirit bodies were formed from vengeful spirits. Once they were allowed to control the flying sword, they would kill non-stop. By then, not only would the Red Fiend be in danger, even the people in the capital would be in danger. Ningyu was not a saint. He did not care much about the life and death of others in the capital, but he was very concerned about the Red Fiend's life. The Red Fiend had a life and death relationship with him. Whoever killed the Red Fiend would be going against him. Fat. However, the moment Ningyu's soul power entered the Red Fiend's body, he felt a sweetness in his throat. He spat out a mouthful of fresh blood. I didn't expect the secondary spirit body to be so powerful. I have to think of a way. Ningyu's expression was gloomy. He knew that with the strength of his soul power, it was almost impossible for him to be a match for the secondary spirit body. That was because the secondary spirit body had already gained control of 1/3 of the Red Fiend's body. The remaining 2/3 of the control was still in a state where no one was controlling it. Dark Emperor, help me control the Red Fiend's body. I can't let it move. Gritting his teeth, Ningyu's 4 illusory golden cores entered the Red Fiend's body and began to seize control of it. You always make me do those thankless things. Although that was what the Dark Emperor said, his hands were not idle. He turned into an afterimage and entered the 3rd level of the pendant, completely taking control of the Red Demon Sword. At the same time, Ningyu was already fighting with the 2nd spiritual body in the Red Fiend's body. As soon as he entered the main body of the Red Demon Sword, Ningyu began to wantonly seize control of the sword. In the short span of 15 minutes, he had already seized 1/3 of the sword's control. 1/3 of the control was comparable to the control that the 2nd spirit had painstakingly obtained. I will tear you apart. A 2nd spirit body was not to be trifled with. He had been careless and wanted to get rid of the Red Fiend completely, giving Ningyu a chance. Otherwise, he would be able to seize control of the remaining 2/3 in a matter of minutes. 2nd spiritual body. Now, we each have 1/3 of the control over the Red Demon Sword. Neither of us can do anything to the other. Since Ningyu had already seized 1/3 of the control, Ningyu had the capital to deal with the 2nd spiritual body. At this moment, Ningyu displayed his wise side and said, "Why don't we sit down and have a good talk?" "Hehe, I know what you want to do." The 2nd spiritual body was not anxious. He smiled and said, "Don't think that I don't know what the 1st spirit is doing. He is working hard to absorb pure energy so that he can fight against me. Help me tell him to stop wasting his efforts, because the red demon sword is destined to belong to me. Shrugging, Ningyu said, I don't know who the red demon sword belongs to. I only know that the red demon sword does not belong to you now. Alright, I'll let you know how powerful I am, the second spiritual body bellowed. The moment he said the word go, the second spiritual body turned into a black fog and charged toward Ningyu. Facing the black fog that was charging toward him, Ningyu's lips curled up. He stood where he was without moving. Whoosh. In the next moment, when the black smoke arrived in front of Ningyu, it suddenly dissipated. Second spiritual body, let me give you a piece of advice. Ningyu said coldly, you and I each have 1/3 of the control over the red demon sword. You must be dreaming if you want to kill me in the red demon sword. Since that's the case, I'll take back the remaining 1/3 of the control. The second spiritual body transformed into a young man dressed in black. Swoosh. Following that, the black-robed man grabbed at the air, and a black flying sword appeared in his hand. Looking at the black flying sword in the black-robed man's hand, Ningyu's expression turned solemn. This was because he could sense a murderous aura from the black flying sword. A murderous aura that made his heart palpitate. The evil good sword. I didn't expect the red demon sword to produce the evil good sword. Ningyu said in shock. There were many flying swords that could produce a second spiritual body, but there were very few that could produce the evil good sword. It could be said to be an extremely rare existence. The so-called evil good sword did not consist of one sword, but two. One was a good sword, and the other was an evil sword. The good sword was the flying sword produced by the kind intent of the original flying sword's owner, while the evil sword was the flying sword produced by the killing aura of the original flying sword. I didn't expect you to know about the evil good sword. The black-robed man laughed sinisterly. That's right. The flying sword in my hand is the evil sword. You must want to know where the good sword is, right? With a smile, the black-robed man flicked his wrist, and a red flying sword appeared in his hand. Good sword. Seeing the red flying sword in the black-robed man's hand, Ningyu was even more shocked. The good and evil swords had never been able to coexist. They were in a state where they could exist without each other. Why was the black-robed man able to hold the good sword in his left hand and the evil sword in his right? Ningyu, the black-robed man, is not holding the good sword, but a flying sword he created. Don't be fooled by him. Just as Ningyu was feeling puzzled, the red demon's voice suddenly sounded in Ningyu's mind. Die. However, just as Ningyu reacted, the black-robed man appeared in front of him, and used the evil sword to stab at his soul power. Ding! At the critical moment, the red demon used all his strength to burrow into his body. The red flying sword in his hand flew out, blocking the fatal blow for Ningyu. A crisp sound rang out, and the evil sword fell to the ground. Swoosh! Ningyu seized this fleeting opportunity and immediately rushed out. Before the black-robed man could react, he picked up the evil sword and put it in his storage ring. Fart! Then, Ningyu grabbed the good sword in front of him and appeared in front of the black-robed man in the blink of an eye. Then, under his horrified gaze, the good sword stabbed into his chest. Looking down at the red flying sword in his chest, the black-robed man opened his mouth, wanting to say something, but his body fell backward. Buzz! However, before the black-robed man's body fell to the ground, it completely turned into black smoke and was absorbed by the good sword. Success! At this moment, the red demon's surprised voice rang in Ningyu's ears, causing Ningyu to tremble. Chapter 331. But, the red demon sword still lacks a master. When the red demon's words rang out on the third level of the pendant, everyone, including the Dark Emperor and even Ningyu, looked ecstatic. To be able to produce a second spiritual body meant that the red demon sword was at least of the king level. If he was lucky enough to control a king-level flying sword, and one that had a spiritual body at that, Ningyu's fighting strength would increase by at least a few times. By then, even if he did not advance to the middle stage of the true martial realm, he would still be able to fight against a pinnacle primal core martial artist. Ningyu, don't just stand there. Don't you understand what the red demon sword means? Seeing that Ningyu was in a daze, the Dark Emperor hurriedly reminded him, The red demon sword lacks a master now. Quickly leave your soul imprint in the red demon sword so that you can control it. Red demon, will this hurt you? Although Ning Yu really wanted to control the red demon sword, he did not want to hurt the red demon. If controlling the red demon sword was based on hurting the red demon, Ning Yu would rather not have the red demon sword. Shaking his head, the red demon said, "Don't worry, it won't hurt me." "That's good." Hearing the red demon's reply, Ning Yu relaxed a little. The next moment, Ning Yu separated a bit of his soul power and left a soul imprint in the red demon sword. As for the good sword, Ning Yu did not do anything to it. Instead, he left it with the red demon. The red demon was a spiritual body produced by the red demon sword. With him in charge of the good sword, it could unleash its greatest power. Whoosh! After about an hour, Ning Yu left his soul imprint in the red demon sword. Then, his soul power slowly withdrew from the red demon sword and left the third level of the pendant. The red demon sword is indeed much stronger than the absolute soul sword. Oh no! After leaving the pendant, Ning Yu heaved a sigh of relief. Before he finished speaking, his expression changed. Swoosh! This was because the red demon sword had broken through the 7-star formation and emerged from the third layer of the pendant, hovering at the bottom of the martial pool. Subsequently, an extremely powerful suction force erupted from the red demon sword, unbridledly absorbing the pure energy in the surroundings. Hongmo, what the hell is going on? The suction force that erupted from the red demon sword was twice as strong as before, causing Ning Yu's heart to palpitate slightly. He was worried that he would give himself away. Since the second spirit body has been killed and you have gained control of the red fiend sword, the red fiend sword's rate of energy absorption has increased significantly. The red devil was also a little anxious, but he was still calm. At this rate, it will take another day and night for the red devil sword to recover to its peak. Return to the peak. Ning Yu was stunned. He asked, "You mean to say that the red demon sword isn't a king-grade flying sword, but a royal-grade flying sword?" Thinking of this, the passion in Ning Yu's eyes intensified. A king-rank flying sword was already very powerful. As for a emperor-rank flying sword, that was a heaven-defying Dharma treasure. Although with Ning Yu's current cultivation and strength, he could not unleash even a tenth of the emperor-rank flying sword's power. Who wouldn't want such a good Dharma treasure? At its peak, the red demon sword is indeed a royal-grade flying sword. However, I'm afraid there isn't enough energy here to restore the red demon sword to its peak, explained the red devil. Absorbing at this rate for a day and a night is absolutely not possible. Ning Yu knew his limits. At this rate of absorbing pure energy, he would definitely be discovered by Danwu College even if he absorbed for 10 hours, much less a day and a night. For a treasure like the red demon sword, there was no guarantee that the upper echelons of Danwu College would not silence him. It was better to be safe than sorry. After some thought, Ning Yu said, "Let's do it this way. Absorb for another 4 hours, then we'll stop." "No problem." With a thought, the red devil controlled the red demon sword and began to absorb the pure energy at the bottom of the martial pool. Ning Yu had first-level control over the red demon sword, while the red devil had second-level control. As long as Ning Yu did not interfere, the red devil could control the red demon sword to do anything. Of course, if Ning Yu needed to use the red demon sword, the red devil would completely lose control over the red demon sword. Time passed slowly. In the blink of an eye, 4 hours had passed. Beside the martial pool, Elder Ming could not help but frown as he looked at the martial pool that had suddenly become devoid of ripples. It was bubbling just now. Why is there no reaction now? Elder Ming mumbled, could it be that Ning Yu has drowned at the bottom? Elder Ming revealed an anxious look as he thought of this possibility. Old man Ming, you're worrying too much. Even a Xiantian stage martial artist can easily hold his breath for 4 hours, let alone Ning Yu. Elder Xian was a little speechless as he spoke. Right now, Ning Yu has already stayed at the bottom of the martial pool for 4 hours. I wonder if he can stay until tomorrow morning. Elder Ming was slightly relieved as he said, "A good start is half the battle. I hope he can stay in there until tomorrow morning." Elder Xian took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, "Whoosh." At the same time, at the bottom of the martial pool, Ningyu shook his wrist and kept the red demon sword into his storage ring. 4 hours was not long, but it was not short either. In these 4 hours, the red demon sword had already absorbed a lot of pure energy. Ningyu also felt that it was time to stop. If he failed miserably, it would not be worth it. Right now, I'm at the peak of the early stage of the true martial realm. I estimate that I only need 2 hours to advance to the middle stage of the true martial realm. With a slightly solemn expression, Ningyu immediately used the spiritual transformation technique and began to absorb the pure energy crazily for cultivation. Beside him, the Dark Emperor also opened its mouth wide and greedily absorbed the pure energy. As a heaven-devouring hound, it was unable to devour so much pure energy and had to endure the torture of 4 hours. For the Dark Emperor, it was extremely uncomfortable. Therefore, as soon as Ningyu put the red demon sword into his storage ring, the Dark Emperor began to devour it crazily. Boom! Cultivating at the bottom of the martial pool was clearly much faster than Ningyu had expected. In just an hour, he felt a dull sound coming from one of the illusory golden cores in his sea of consciousness. Boom! 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 Immediately after, 3 consecutive dull sounds rang out in Ningyu's sea of consciousness. Hearing these 3 dull sounds, Ningyu quickly sank his consciousness into his sea of consciousness. Sensing the changes in the 4 illusory golden cores in his sea of consciousness, Ningyu revealed an ecstatic expression. True martial realm middle stage. At this moment, Ningyu broke through the early stage of the true martial realm and advanced to the middle stage of the true martial realm. Moreover, this middle stage of the true martial realm was not the ordinary middle stage of the true martial realm, but the peak of the middle stage of the true martial realm. He was only 1 step away from advancing to the late stage of the true martial realm. However, Ningyu was not in a hurry to advance to the late stage of the true martial realm. He wanted to properly stabilize his cultivation. The Dark Emperor's absorption of energy is not slow either. He has already reached the peak of the middle stage of the primal core realm. Turning his head to look at the sweating Dark Emperor, Ningyu was just about to retract his gaze when his expression changed drastically. This was because a small vortex had quietly appeared behind the Dark Emperor. Chapter 332. Be careful, Dark Emperor. The sudden change in events caused Ningyu's expression to turn gloomy to the extreme. Without any time to think, Ningyu grabbed the Dark Emperor and charged toward the surface of the martial pool. Whoosh! In an instant, Ningyu charged out from the bottom of the martial pool with the Dark Emperor. F***CK. He's out already. Beside the martial pool, Elder Ming couldn't help but curse when he saw Ningyu leave the martial pool with a black puppy in his hand. It hasn't even been 6 hours. Why? Before Elder Ming could finish his complaint, his eyes widened like Ningyu earlier. His face was filled with disbelief. Boom! Following Ningyu from the bottom of the martial pool, a small whirlpool followed closely behind. The powerful devouring force that erupted from the small whirlpool even made the Xianming elders' hearts palpitate. Even as yin-yang stage martial artists, they did not dare to face the devouring force head-on. What are you waiting for? Come over quickly. Elder Ming was indeed a yin-yang stage martial artist. He reacted after being stunned for only a second. When Elder Ming reacted, he saw Ningyu floating above the martial pool and shouted, "Even I don't dare to face that devouring force head-on. Come over quickly if you know what's good for you." However, Ningyu did not seem to have heard Elder Ming's words as he continued to float above the martial pool without moving. I'm so pissed. Elder Ming could not help but stomp his feet as his face turned pale. He wanted to pull Ningyu over, but he was afraid of the devouring force that erupted from the small whirlpool. I want to go over too. Above the martial pool, Ningyu's face was filled with bitterness. It was not that he did not want to go over, but he could not. With his keen senses, he could naturally sense a powerful aura surging from the bottom of the martial pool and locking onto him. The owner of the powerful aura was much more powerful than the Xianming elders. Being locked on by such a powerful aura, Ningyu knew very well that it was impossible for him to escape. Red Devil, listen to my instructions later. Taking a deep breath, Ningyu quietly communicated with Red Devil. As he had left a soul imprint in the Red Fiend sword, Ningyu's communication with the Red Fiend was very convenient. No matter how powerful a warrior was, they would not be able to discover it. Ningyu, what do we do now? Ningyu was locked onto by a powerful aura, so the Dark Emperor naturally could not escape this fate. Relatively speaking, he was feeling better than Ningyu. After all, his cultivation was at the peak of the middle primal core stage, and he was only a step away from the late primal core stage. This powerful aura did not affect him much. Wait. Ningyu did not beat around the bush. His words were simple and direct. Wait. The Dark Emperor frowned in confusion. Even at such a critical juncture, Ningyu was still able to remain calm. He really had great willpower. Old Ming, should we inform the higher-ups of the academy? Old Xian asked worriedly. Not for now. Let's wait and see. Old Ming said in a deep voice, Ningyu is not in danger now. Let's not act rashly. All right. Old Xian nodded helplessly. He also released his aura and paid attention to the movements of the small whirlpool. As long as there were any changes in the small whirlpool, he would immediately leave this place and inform the higher-ups of the academy. The Xianming elders did not know about the powerful aura surging from the bottom of the martial pool. They only knew that the small whirlpool was emitting a powerful devouring force. If they knew that Ningyu was locked onto by a terrifying aura, they would have long thought of ways to contact the higher-ups of the academy. Drip. Drip. Time passed bit by bit. In the blink of an eye, another 2 hours had passed. 10 more minutes. Suddenly, a soft voice rang in Ningyu's ears. Hearing this voice, Ningyu hurriedly said, "Who are you? What do you mean 10 more minutes?" However, after the voice sounded, it did not sound again for the next few minutes. 5 more minutes. 5 minutes later, the voice rang in Ningyu's ears again. This time, Ningyu was smarter. He did not waste time asking questions. Then, every minute, the voice would be heard once. 1 more minute. When these words rang out, Ningyu's expression turned serious. Time's up. After a minute, when these 3 words rang out again, Ningyu was shocked to discover that the small whirlpool on the surface of the martial pool had completely disappeared. Whoosh. The disappearance of the small whirlpool was not the end. Instead, it was another kind of beginning. With a whoosh, an illusory figure appeared from the bottom of the martial pool and floated in front of Ningyu. Old Dean. Seeing the illusory figure in front of Ningyu, the Xianming elders almost jumped up. The dejection on their faces was swept away, and was replaced with joy. This was because this illusory figure was none other than the figure left behind by the first dean of Danwu College. However, the Xianming elders were a little confused. Logically speaking, only by activating the formation could the figure left behind by the first dean appear. And the key to activating the formation was to persist at the bottom of the martial pool until tomorrow morning. Ningyu did not persist until tomorrow morning. Why would the formation be activated? Why would the figure of the first dean appear? A series of questions arose in the minds of the Xianming elders. Xianming elders, your mission is complete. Go and guard the door. Without my permission, no one is to enter. The illusory figure in the air waved his sleeves. Instantly, a powerful airflow flew out and blasted the Xianming elders out of the stone chamber. Not only were the Xianming elders not angry after being blasted away by the airflow, but they were ecstatic instead. The words of the first dean meant that they could leave Danwu College at will from now on and would no longer be restricted. After the Xianming elders were blasted away, the illusory figure in the air said indifferently, "You are called Ningyu? Senior, my name is indeed Ningyu." Ningyu did not dare to be negligent and quickly replied. Although it was an illusory figure in front of him, Ningyu knew that the other party was extremely powerful and was some old dean. He, don't be nervous. My name is Wei Zongtian. I am one of the first deans of Danwu College. The illusory figure seemed to have seen Ningyu's nervousness and laughed. One of the first deans? Ningyu frowned. In the beginning, there was no Danwu College in the Great Xia Kingdom. There was only the Dan Institution and the Martial Institution. Wei Zongtian explained, I was the dean of the Dan Institution and Chu Tianming was the dean of the Martial Institution. A long time ago, The Dan Institution and the Marshall Institution were the top colleges in the Great Xia Kingdom. At that time, the corpse sect suddenly launched an attack on the Marshall Institution. Wei Zongtian seemed to be immersed in his memories as he slowly said, "The day before the corpse sect attacked the Marshall Institution, Chu Tianming realized that something was wrong. He transferred all the students of the Marshall Institution to the Dan Institution and entrusted me to help him look after them. He led the elders of the Marshall Institution to fight to the death. In the end, they were surrounded and captured by the corpse sect." Chapter 333. In the Great Xia Kingdom, there were very few people who knew about the secret of Danwu College. In everyone's opinion, ever since the corpse sect broke through the Marshall Institution, the Dan Institution became the most popular institution in the Great Xia Kingdom. It was understandable that Wei Zongtian changed its name to Danwu College. After saying so much, you might still be wondering why I appeared at this time. Wei Zongtian waved his hand, and the Dark Emperor's body uncontrollably came to Wei Zongtian's side. There are two reasons why I appeared at this time. Wei Zongtian probed the Dark Emperor's body with his perception and said, "First, because of this heaven-devouring dog. The corpse sect's desire for the heaven-devouring dog clan is very strong. If the corpse sect knows that you have a heaven-devouring dog by your side, the consequences will be unimaginable. The corpse sect attacked the Marshall Institution because Chu Tianming saved an injured heaven-devouring dog and brought it back to the Marshall Institution to recuperate. I don't know who leaked the news, causing the corpse sect to send out a large number of people to capture Chu Tianming and the heaven-devouring dog alive. I don't want the tragedy of the Marshall Institution to repeat itself." Wei Zongtian's expression was solemn. He then grabbed the Dark Emperor and threw it to the bottom of the Marshall pool. "Dean Wei." Seeing Wei Zongtian's rude action, Ningyu's expression changed and he hurriedly said, "Don't worry, I'm just helping this heaven-devouring dog hide its aura." Wei Zongtian waved his hand and said to Ningyu, "The second reason I came out this time is because of you." "Because of me?" Hearing the first half of Wei Zongtian's words, Ningyu was slightly relieved, but he was a little confused when he heard the second half. This Marshall pool isn't the real Marshall pool, and the formation at the bottom is only a broken formation. Wei Zongtian closed his eyes slightly, as if he was recalling something. After a while, Wei Zongtian opened his eyes and said slowly, "The fact that you can break the broken formation is enough to show that you have hope of breaking the formation at the bottom of the Marshall pool." "The real Marshall pool?" Ningyu said. "That's right, the real Wu Kai." Nodding his head, Wei Zongtian continued, "The real Wu Kai disappeared with Chu Tianming's capture. If you want to find it, you must have Chu Tianming's keepsake." After saying that, Wei Zongtian flicked his wrist, and a golden crystal ball flew out of his sleeve, heading for Ningyu. "Pa." Ningyu caught the crystal ball steadily and looked at it carefully. The crystal ball was no different from the others, except that it was golden in color. This crystal ball has a special characteristic. As long as you get close to the real Wu Kai realm, it will emit a golden light. Wei Zongtian reminded, "Ever since Chu Tianming was captured by the corpse sect, I have secretly investigated and finally came to a conclusion. The real Wu Kai realm might have been moved to the Imperial Palace by the peak experts of the Imperial Palace." Ningyu was still a little confused. He asked, "If the golden crystal ball can find the whereabouts of the real Wu Kai, why did it choose me?" "I said that if you can break the formation of this Wu Kai realm, you can also break the formation at the bottom of the real Wu Kai realm." Wei Zongtian said solemnly, "I can tell you very clearly that the reason why it chose you is because you are special. At the bottom of the real Wu Kai realm, there is a formation, and only you can break it. Once the formation is broken, you will see a box embedded at the bottom of the Wu Kai realm, and that box can only be taken away by the heaven-devouring dog. What you need to do is to find the real Wu Kai realm, break the formation at the bottom, and let your heaven-devouring dog bring the box back to Danwu College." Hearing Wei Zongtian's words, Ningyu fell into deep thought. After pondering for a moment, Ningyu said, "Dean Wei, I can only say that I will try my best. Whether or not I can find the real Wu Kai realm is not something I can decide. No problem, as long as you can bring the box back to Danwu College, I will not let you suffer a loss." With a smile, Wei Zongtian made a grabbing motion in the air with both hands, and a small vortex appeared. With a push of his palm, the small vortex appeared in front of Ningyu. Ningyu's eyes narrowed when he saw the powerful suction force that erupted from the small vortex. This vortex is called the strangulation vortex, and it is very powerful. Just as Ningyu was feeling somewhat puzzled, Wei Zongtian's voice rang out. It can erupt with 3 frightening devouring forces. Each one of them will cause a yin-yang initial stage martial artist to tremble in fear. In other words, with this vortex, you can even go against early yin-yang stage martial artist. Whoosh! Just as Wei Zongtian finished speaking, the Dark Emperor emerged from the bottom of the Wu Kai realm. Feeling the powerful aura emanating from the Dark Emperor, Ningyu was slightly stunned at first, then said, "Dark Emperor, you have advanced to the late primal core stage?" The aura emanating from the Dark Emperor had already reached the late primal core stage. The Dark Emperor also had a look of disbelief on his face. "That's right, I have indeed advanced to the late primal core stage. Alright, you guys can go out. Call the Xianming elders over, I have something to say to them." Just then, Wei Zongtian waved his hand, indicating for Ningyu and the Dark Emperor to leave first. Without any hesitation, Ningyu's figure flashed and he left the secret chamber. The Dark Emperor followed closely behind him. Although there was no danger here, the pressure that Wei Zongtian gave Ningyu was too great, so great that Ningyu found it difficult to even breathe. Given this, it was better to leave the secret chamber. Creak! Just as Ningyu and the Dark Emperor left the secret chamber, the Xianming elders rushed into the secret chamber impatiently. They looked very anxious. Actually, it was no wonder that the Xianming elders were so anxious, because this was their only chance to leave Danwu College, and it might even be their only chance to raise their cultivation. If they grasped this opportunity, they might be able to improve even further and raise their cultivation. If they didn't, they would be mediocre for the rest of their lives. Swish! Outside the Danwu pool, Ningyu asked, "Dark Emperor, what did you do at the bottom of the Danwu pool? How did you advance to the late-stage Yuan core realm so quickly?" Logically speaking, the Dark Emperor needed at least several hours to advance to the late-stage Yuan core realm. With Wei Zongtian's help, the Dark Emperor advanced from the mid-stage Yuan core realm to the late-stage Yuan core realm in less than 10 minutes. Ningyu was very puzzled. "I don't know the specifics either." Shaking his head, the Dark Emperor said, "I only felt my vision go black, and when I woke up, I had already advanced to the late-stage Yuan core realm. It must be Wei Zongtian." Ningyu still felt that Wei Zongtian was a little unusual. He couldn't believe everything Wei Zongtian said, but he had to believe it. In short, no matter what he did in the future, he had to follow his own thoughts and not be led by the nose by Wei Zongtian. "Ningyu, what are we going to do now?" the Dark Emperor asked. Looking at the surrounding pitch-black night, Ningyu pondered for a moment and then said solemnly. Chapter 334. Bam! In a spacious room in the snow pavilion. Liu Qing stood up abruptly and smashed the chair he was sitting on. "I can't wait any longer. I must avenge him. Don't be impatient. We must avenge him. Ningyu will die, but not now." Wen Yi said, "Let's get ready tonight. If Ningyu dares to come tomorrow, we will make sure he never returns. Big brother, Ningyu is not a threat. I am worried about that dog." Frowning slightly, Wen Pai looked worried. Right now, the snow pavilion can only send 3 yin-yang realm warriors. I'm afraid that something unexpected will happen. 3 yin-yang realm martial artists are enough. Tomorrow morning, the Zhong family will send powerful warriors to support us. Wen Yi smirked. The Zhong family sees Ningyu as a thorn in their side. They have wanted to kill him for a long time. After the incident at the capital gate, the Zhong family wants to get rid of Ningyu even more. This time, the Zhong family will send 2 yin-yang realm martial artists. Even the head of the Zhong family will show up. Although the Zhong family will support us, we have to be prepared. Wen Pai thought for a while and said, "In my opinion, we should give Lu Wei the heart-devouring pill and force Ningyu to give in." "Good idea. Let's go." Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. With that said, when Yi and the others dashed toward the room Lu Xuan was in. Creak. Soon, Wen Yi and the others arrived at the room where Lu Wei was. Wen Yi, I advise you to let me out. Inside the room, Lu Wei saw Wen Yi and the others and yelled, you will get what you deserve sooner or later. Get what I deserve? Ha ha ha. Wen Yi curled his lips and laughed, we will get married tomorrow. You will be my bride. You will not be able to escape if I get what I deserve. Bah. Lu Wei suddenly spat out a mouthful of saliva and said coldly, even if I die, I will not marry you. Die. Wen Yi raised his eyebrows and said, before me, even death is a luxury. Oh, right. Suddenly, Wen Yi seemed to have thought of something and said to Lu Wei, are you waiting for Ningyu to save you? To tell you the truth, I have already laid out an inescapable net in the snow domain pavilion. As long as Ningyu dares to come, I will make sure he will not be able to return. Ningyu. Lu Wei's heart skipped a beat. Even a yin-yang realm martial artist wouldn't be able to escape death by barging into the snow domain pavilion, let alone Ningyu. I'll kill myself right now, Lu Wei growled with a cold expression. Suicide. Just then, Wen Pai took a step forward and smiled evilly, you can kill yourself, but as long as you die, your father will be buried with you. You. Lu Wei was so angry that her chest was heaving up and down. Wen Pai, take out the heart-devouring pill and give it to her. Wen Yi waved his hand and said, later, we will go and see if that old fart will let it go. Understood. Wen Pai waved his sleeve and a jade bottle appeared in his hand. Bang. Wen Pai exerted a little force with his thumb, and the stopper of the jade bottle popped open. Then, a pill appeared in Wen Pai's hand. The pill was about the size of a fingernail. It was black and constantly emitted a heart-palpitating aura. Heart-devouring pill. Lu Wei had seen the heart-devouring pill before, so she recognized the black pill in Wen Pai's hand at first glance. I didn't expect you to recognize the heart-devouring pill. This saves me a lot of trouble. Wen Pai first locked Lu Wei with his powerful aura, causing Lu Wei to be unable to move. Then, he held her chin and the heart-devouring pill flew into Lu Wei's mouth. The heart-devouring pill melted in Lu Wei's mouth and turned into liquid, flowing into her stomach. Every 7 days, the heart-devouring pill will take effect. Then, Wen Pai took out a black bottle and shook it, saying, there are 7 pills in here. Every time the pill takes effect, I will give you one to relieve your pain. These pills can only relieve your pain for 49 days. If you want to completely cure the heart-devouring pill, wait until you give birth to 1 or 2 children for me. Ha ha ha. Then, Wen Pai and the others laughed. After a while, Liu Qing said, Wen Yi, since you are going to marry her tomorrow, why don't you take the opportunity to do it with her now? Wen Pai, who was next to him, echoed, that's right, big brother. If you do it with her, maybe she will follow you wholeheartedly. Wen Yi, if you dare to touch me, I will immediately bite my tongue to commit suicide. Lu Wei said coldly. Bite your tongue to commit suicide. Smiling, Wen Yi walked step by step toward Lu Wei, you can try. Seeing Wen Yi walking toward her, Lu Wei stuck her tongue between her teeth. Just when she wanted to exert force, she found that her whole body was weak, unable to exert any strength. I forgot to tell you, I applied some cartilage powder on the heart-devouring pill. That's why you feel weak now. Wen Pai said. Wen Yi, if you dare to touch me, my father will definitely not let you go. Suddenly, the cartilage powder took effect, and Lu Wei found it difficult to even speak. Ha ha ha, not to mention your father, even if the God of Heaven came, I will do it with you today. Laughing, Wen Yi turned around and said, Wen Pai, Liu Qing, you two guard outside, I want to consummate with Lu Wei here. Big brother, I'm afraid Lu Wei is still a virgin, you have to enjoy her. Wen Pai winked at Liu Qing, then immediately left the room. At this moment, only Lu Wei and Wen Yi were left in the room. Lu Wei's whole body was weak, and Wen Yi's eyes were shining. You, don't come over. Lu Wei shouted with all her strength. Shout as much as you want. Even if you shout until your throat breaks, no one will come to save you. Wen Yi was like a big bad wolf, walking while saying. Ningyu offended the Zhong family and the crown prince, and the people of the Yin Corps sect are also chasing after him. Wen Yi continued, He is a jinx, no matter where he goes, there will be no peace. Don't have any illusions about Ningyu. If Ningyu comes today, I will write my name upside down. Pa. Pa. At this moment, two muffled sounds came from outside the door. Catcher. Soon after, two figures slammed into the door, shattering the wooden door into smithereens. Dong. 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 Soon after, a slightly thin figure slowly walked in from outside the door and appeared in Wen Yi's field of vision. Seeing the extremely familiar figure in front of him, Wen Yi's pupils shrank and he couldn't help but take a few steps back. However, looking at Lu Wei who couldn't move, Wen Yi stopped and coldly said, "Ningyu, I admire your courage. You actually dared to break into the Snow Domain Pavilion at this time." Chapter 335. Fat. The powerful aura that came from his surroundings caused Wen Yi's expression to change, and he spat out a mouthful of dark red blood. Shio. Then, Ningyu's figure flashed and he charged straight out. Bang! Ningyu's foot landed on Wen Yi's chest. The huge force caused Wen Yi to retreat several feet, and he only stopped when he hit the wall. Wen Yi's face turned pale as he spat out another mouthful of blood. "Let's go." Grabbing Lu Wei's arm, Ningyu got up and prepared to leave. However, before Ningyu could leave the room, his expression changed dramatically as he pulled Lu Wei behind him. Then, Ningyu punched out and collided with the fist that suddenly appeared in front of him. Bang! When the two fists collided, Ningyu felt a sweetness in his throat, as if he was about to vomit blood. Swallowing the blood in his throat, Ningyu steadied himself. Peak of the primal core stage, looking up at the middle-aged man beside Wen Yi, Ningyu said in a deep voice, "You alone can't stop me. Haha, I have to say, you have guts to barge into Shueyu Pavilion." Just then, a light laugh came from outside the door, and an old man in brown walked in slowly. The brown-robed old man first looked at Ningyu from head to toe, and then lightly said, "A middle-stage true martial realm martial artist can burst out with such powerful strength. If I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, I really wouldn't have believed it." Yin-yang stage? No, half a step into the yin-yang stage. Seeing the old man in brown, Ningyu's heart skipped a beat. Because the old man's aura, even if not the yin-yang stage, was at least half a step into the yin-yang stage. With Ningyu's current strength, he could compete with a peak of the primal core stage, and even kill him. Against a half-step yin-yang realm martial artist, unless he used the small whirlpool that Wei Zongtian had given him, he did not have the confidence to contend. "I wonder if I can stop you with the addition of me?" The brown-robed elder curled his lips and said. "You?" Ningyu raised his eyebrows, stretched out a finger, and shook it. Without batting an eyelid, he said, "Not enough. Ha ha ha. Boy, you're very arrogant. He is the most arrogant true martial realm martial artist I have ever seen." As soon as the word here fell, the brown-robed old man's figure flashed and instantly disappeared from Ningyu's sight. Teleportation. Watching the brown-robed old man disappear, Ningyu's eyes narrowed slightly. At the half-step yin-yang realm, one could use the power of space to teleport for a short period of time. In other words, it was teleportation. Unless one's soul perception was very strong, it was impossible to discover the traces of a teleportation martial artist. Although the brown-robed old man was a half-step yin-yang realm martial artist and could use the power of space to teleport, Ningyu stood in the same place without a change in expression. Humph. "Ningyu, you're courting death." Wen Yi snorted coldly and said fiercely, "I must kill Ningyu and cut him into pieces." Wen Pai and Liu Qing got up, and Wen Pai's face was full of anger. Not dodging a half-step yin-yang realm martial artist is really arrogant to the extreme. Liu Qing's face was also ugly. He was lying on the ground like a dog after being beaten by Ningyu with one move. The anger on his face was no less than Wen Pai's. By the way, why didn't the dog with Ningyu come over? Wen Yi's heart skipped a beat as he asked hurriedly. Wen Yi knew that the dog was very strong. To be able to defeat the black-white double ghosts, it was enough to show that it could compete with a half-step yin-yang realm martial artist. There was no reason for Ningyu to barge into Snow Pavilion alone without his pet dog. Buzz. In the next moment, the brown-robed elder appeared in front of Ningyu. "Ha ha, kid, you should be proud to die in my hands." With a smile, The brown-robed elder clenched his right fist and punched toward Ningyu's head. The brown-robed elder's punch was powerful, and it contained a violent fluctuation of yuan qi. If Ningyu was unlucky enough to be hit, his head would definitely explode. Crash. However, when the brown-robed elder's fist was 10 centimeters away from Ningyu, a black figure suddenly dashed out from Ningyu's side and collided with the brown-robed elder's fist under his horrified gaze. Crack. A crisp sound, accompanied by a pig-like shriek, rang out in the room. The brown-robed elder held his right fist, and his face became a little twisted. Damn dog. At the side, when Wen Yi and the rest saw the black dog appear beside Ningyu, their faces became very ugly. This dog's strength has increased again, Wen Yi said coldly. Wen Yi was very clear that when they were at the capital city gates, the black dog's strength was not as strong as it was now. Moreover, there was a small dog at the city gates. Why had it become a black dog now? This is not a Ling Hua dog. It should be some kind of special dog race, Wen Pai said in a low voice with a slight frown. Ling Hua dogs were only low-level beasts. No matter how strong they could not be as strong as the black dog in front of them. To be able to defeat a half-step yin-yang stage martial artist in one move, this black dog's strength should be between half-step yin-yang stage and yin-yang stage. Liu Qing muttered with a frown. Liu Qing had always looked down on Ningyu. It was only at this moment that he changed his view of Ningyu. In other words, he recognized the huge gap between him and Ningyu. The late-stage primal core stage Dark Emperor is actually so powerful. Actually, Ningyu was also very shocked to see the Dark Emperor defeat the brown-robed elder in one move. Originally, he thought that the Dark Emperor would at most be evenly matched with the brown-robed elder, and both sides would be evenly matched. Who would have thought that not only did the Dark Emperor defeat the brown-robed elder in one move, he didn't even seem to have used much strength. A late-stage primal core stage could easily defeat a half-step yin-yang stage martial artist. Once the Dark Emperor advanced to the peak of the primal core stage, wouldn't he be able to contend against early-stage yin-yang stage or even middle-stage yin-yang stage martial artists? Old bastard, you said that Ningyu should be proud to die in your hands. Do you think that you should be proud to die in my hands? After defeating the brown-robed elder in one move, the Dark Emperor clearly did not intend to stop there. His figure flashed and he once again appeared beside the brown-robed elder. A hint of coldness flashed across his eyes as the Dark Emperor said coldly, to personally kill a half-step yin-yang stage martial artist, TSK, just thinking about it makes me excited. Humph. Don't celebrate too early. With a cold snort, the brown-robed elder said gloomily, this is Snow Domain Pavilion. If you dare to kill me here, you definitely won't be able to escape. To tell you the truth, there are many yin-yang stage martial artists in Snow Domain Pavilion. They can kill you as easily as killing an ant. Noisy. The Dark Emperor seemed a little impatient. He rose from the ground and instantly arrived in front of the brown-robed elder. He raised his front claws and stabbed at the brown-robed elder's chest. Whoosh. Chapter 336. Whoosh. Although he managed to block the Dark Emperor's fatal attack, the elder's right arm was pierced. At this time, the brown-robed old man's expression was extremely ugly and gloomy. In the first move, his right fist was broken by the black dog. In the second move, his right arm was pierced by the black dog. In 2 moves, he lost to the same black dog. If an aunt could endure, so could an uncle. The elder knew the difference between him and the black dog. If he couldn't endure, he would die. Hold on for 1 more minute. In 1 minute, Pavilion Leader Wen Hong will be here personally. The elder's eyes flashed with ruthlessness. Dark Emperor, let's leave quickly in case something happens. Actually, Ningyu also hoped to kill the elder and Wen Yi here. However, he knew that if he didn't leave now, he might not be able to. Until now, the elites from Snow Domain Pavilion had not appeared. There was only one possibility. They were in trouble. Once the trouble was over, they would definitely rush over. At that time, it would be difficult to leave. Understood. The Dark Emperor was not an indecisive dog, but he was not an inexperienced child who did not know anything either. Before he left, he dashed to Wen Yi and Wen Pai and knocked them out. Then, He carried them on his back and left. With Wen Yi and Wen Pai as hostages, the Dark Emperor believed that even if the elites from Snow Domain Pavilion appeared, they would be able to escape unscathed. As for martial artists like Liu Qing, he had lost his value. The Dark Emperor did not waste time on him. "Ningyu, can you save my parents?" Just as Ningyu left the room, Lu Wei's voice rang beside him. Hearing this, Ningyu froze and stopped where he was. Whoosh! Seeing that Ningyu had stopped, the Dark Emperor, who was about to leave Snow Domain Pavilion, turned around and returned. After a moment of silence, Ningyu said, "Let's return to Danwu College first and think about it." Ningyu knew his limits. It was already good enough that he could save Lu Wei. Save her parents again? At the very least, with Ningyu's current strength, it was basically impossible for him to complete this mission. Return to Danwu College? Since you're already here, don't go anywhere. Just stay here. As soon as Ningyu's voice faded, a voice rang out in the area. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Then, 3 figures tore through the void and landed steadily in front of Ningyu. Hiss. Ningyu could not help but suck in a breath of cold air when he sensed the powerful aura emanating from the 3 figures. Yin-Yang Realm. The weakest of the 3 martial artists in front of him was at the Yin-Yang Realm. In fact, the martial artist who spoke at the front was likely to have reached the Yin-Yang Realm. Ningyu was in the middle stage of the true martial realm. Facing a martial artist in the middle stage of the Yin-Yang Realm, even if he cast the small vortex, it would still be difficult for him to escape. The Dark Emperor threw Wen Yi and Wen Pai in front of him and said coldly, "3 old fogies, I advise you not to act rashly. Otherwise, I can't guarantee that they will live to see tomorrow's sun." The Dark Emperor was not very worried. Even if he could not fight against a martial artist in the middle stage of the Yin-Yang Realm, it was not difficult for him to escape. "Hey, you two wake up. Look at who these 3 old fogies are," the Dark Emperor said faintly as he kicked Wen Yi and Wen Pai. "Stupid dog, you better." "Father." Wen Yi and Wen Pai opened their eyes with difficulty. Just as they wanted to scold him, they saw a familiar figure in front of them and their faces became wild with joy. "Father, quickly kill this damned dog," Wen Yi shouted. "And Ningyu. At the very least, we have to cut Ningyu into pieces," Wen Pai added. "Ouch." As soon as Wen Yi and Wen Pai spoke, they felt a pain in their butts and could not help but cry out. Behind them, the Dark Emperor kicked their butts and said darkly, "No one will think that you are mute if you don't speak." Then, the Dark Emperor turned to the martial artist in the middle stage of the Yin-Yang Realm and said, "Seems like you are their father. Now, you have 2 choices. 1, collect their corpses, and 2, let us go." "What if I don't choose either?" Wen Hong said coldly, "You are the first martial artist who dares to speak to me like this in the Snow Pavilion." "No, I mean, a dog who dares to speak to me like this." "Old fogey, which eye of yours sees that I am a dog?" The Dark Emperor's face was a little cold as he said, "Open your dog eyes and look. I am the Dark Emperor, your grandfather. Even a dog dares to be so arrogant in the Snow Pavilion. If word gets out, people will laugh at you." Wen Hong cupped his fists and looked at the martial artist beside him. "Vice Pavilion Master Wen, the 2 young masters are still in their hands. Should we think about it?" The tall old man in the early stage of the Yin-Yang Realm next to Wen Hong frowned. "If we act rashly, the young masters might meet with misfortune." The other old man in the early stage of the Yin-Yang Realm said, "Jiao Ying, Jiao Yu, you have to understand whose orders you are listening to." Wen Hong turned his head to look at the 2 old men and said in a deep voice, "Your duty is to obey orders unconditionally. I want obedient dogs, not dogs who express opinions casually. We know what to do." Hearing Wen Hong's words, Jiao Ying and Jiao Yu felt a chill in their hearts. They immediately rose from the ground and rushed towards the Dark Emperor. They were originally following Lu Wei's father, who knew that Wen Hong would use a scheme to control them and make them consume the heart-devouring pill, making them have to consume the antidote every 7 days. Otherwise, their entire body would be in unbearable pain. Holy *T, Wen Hong, you don't even care about your own son's life. Seeing the situation, the Dark Emperor cursed. However, The Dark Emperor's hands were not idle. He hurriedly grabbed Wen Yi and blocked in front of him. Swish, swish. Seeing Wen Yi in front of the Dark Emperor, Jiao Ying and Jiao Yu stopped in unison. If they continued to attack, they would definitely hit Wen Yi. Hehe, this talisman is not bad. Smiling, the Dark Emperor kicked Wen Pai to Ningyu and said, "This kid is a talisman. If we use him well, we can easily leave Snow Pavilion today." Is that so? At this moment, Wen Hong took a step forward and displayed the aura of the intermediate stage of the yin-yang state. It went towards the Dark Emperor and Ningyu without restraint. Phut! The Dark Emperor was fine. After all, he had advanced to the advanced stage of the Yuan Dan stage and his resistance was strong. Ningyu, on the other hand, was a little bitter. As he blocked Wen Hong's powerful aura for Lu Wei, he felt a sweetness in his throat and spat out a mouthful of fresh blood. "Ningyu, are you all right?" Seeing Ningyu spit out blood, Lu Wei hurriedly asked. "I'm all right. How can I be all right?" Ningyu's pitiful state excited Wen Pai. He smirked and said, "I advise you to surrender. Otherwise, if my father goes all out, you might not see the sun tomorrow." Noisy. Piak. Chapter 337. POW. A crisp sound rang out. When Pai touched his burning cheeks, his eyes filled with viciousness. Although he really wanted to curse at Ningyu, Wen Pai knew that he had no choice but to lower his head under the eaves. "Old bastard Wen Hong, are you going to move aside or not?" Right at this moment, the Dark Emperor kicked Wen Yi's butt once again and said coldly, "If you don't move aside, I can't guarantee how long this son of a bitch of yours will live." Not good. Before the Dark Emperor could finish speaking, his expression changed drastically as he hurriedly grabbed Wen Yi to block in front of him. He saw that Wen Hong's figure in front of him was gradually becoming illusory. The figure of a martial artist in the middle stage of the yin-yang realm becoming illusory meant that it was extremely likely that they could use the power of space to teleport. Bang! Sure enough, just as the Dark Emperor placed Wen Yi in front of him, Wen Hong appeared behind him. Without any flashy moves, Wen Hong punched out and landed squarely on the Dark Emperor's back. The immense force coming from his back caused the Dark Emperor to stagger, and his body flew far away. Swish! After forcing the Dark Emperor back with a single strike, Wen Hong grabbed Wen Yi's shoulder and threw him beside the two early-stage yin-yang realm elders. Following that, Wen Hong turned into an afterimage and rushed towards Ningyu. Damn it! From the moment Wen Hong made his move to the moment the Dark Emperor was forced to retreat, only a few seconds had passed. This was something Ningyu did not expect. Even someone as strong as the Dark Emperor was unable to block Wen Hong's attack. It could be imagined that he definitely could not either. "Since that's the case, I'll cripple you first." Thinking of this, Ningyu swung his wrist and anxiously held the soul-breaking sword horizontally in his hand, fiercely stabbing it into Wen Pai's heart. Puff! The soul-breaking sword was a low-grade heaven stage flying sword, and it almost pierced through Wen Pai's heart. After getting rid of Wen Pai, Ningyu immediately rose from the ground and did everything he could to retreat. At the same time, Ningyu placed the small whirlpool that Wei Zhongtian had given him into his sleeve, ready to attack at any time. However, Wen Hong did not continue to attack, but stayed by Wen Pai's side. Wen Hong pointed at Wen Pai's heart a few times and temporarily stopped the bleeding for Wen Pai. "No, I have to treat him as soon as possible." Wen Hong's face darkened as he sensed Wen Pai's aura gradually weakening. He didn't think too much about it and immediately sat down cross-legged. He placed his hands on Wen Pai's back and poured his primordial qi into Wen Pai's body. With his heart pierced, Wen Hong only had a 10% chance of saving Wen Pai even though he was at the middle stage of yin-yang realm. "Jiao Ying, Jiao Yu, in 3 minutes, I don't want to see Ningyu and this black dog anymore," Wen Hong said in a deep voice as he treated Wen Pai's injuries. "Attack!" After exchanging glances, Jiao Ying and Jiao Yu attacked in unison. One attacked the Dark Emperor while the other attacked Ningyu. As for Wen Yi, he was tossed aside by them. "Ningyu, I'll hold them back. You take Lu Wei and leave." Wiping the blood from the corner of his mouth, the Dark Emperor rose from the ground and appeared in front of Ningyu in the blink of an eye. In a split second, the Dark Emperor's body grew several times bigger. With a loud roar, the Dark Emperor used his huge body to block Ningyu behind him. Bang! Bang! At this moment, Jiao Ying and Jiao Yu's attacks had already arrived and landed on the Dark Emperor's huge body. After being hit by 2 fists, the Dark Emperor still stood on the spot and didn't move. Kill this black dog first, then kill Ningyu. Jiao Ying and Jiao Yu weren't stupid. Through the previous attack, they could already judge the Dark Emperor's strength. It was between half-step Yin-Yang realm and early-stage Yin-Yang realm. If it was a one-on-one fight, they couldn't do anything if the Dark Emperor wanted to escape. If it was a 2-on-1 fight, the Dark Emperor's chances of escaping would be very slim. Buzz. However, just as Jiao Ying and Jiao Yu wanted to attack a second time, a cold radiance swept out from Ningyu's body and appeared above the Dark Emperor's head. Red flying sword. Looking at the red flying sword above the Dark Emperor's head, Jiao Ying and the rest were slightly stunned and found it unbelievable. From the red flying sword, they felt an extremely terrifying murderous aura. That killing intent could only be produced by killing tens of thousands of people. The moment the red flying sword appeared, Wen Hong, who wasn't far away, couldn't help but raise his brows as his heart was filled with shock. He vaguely felt that the red flying sword wasn't simple and it might be a spiritual body. However, he was focused on treating Wen Pai and couldn't split his perception. Otherwise, he would definitely snatch the red flying sword away. Snatch the red flying sword away. Although he couldn't do it personally, it didn't stop Wen Hong from giving orders. Red Pai, why did you only come out now? Looking up at the red flying sword above his head, the Dark Emperor was slightly relieved. He knew that Red Pai had fused with the red demon sword and its strength had increased greatly. Even if it wasn't as powerful as him, it wouldn't be much weaker. At the very least, it would be able to escape unscathed against an early-stage Yin-Yang realm martial artist. Dark Emperor, 1 each? The red demon's voice sounded in the Dark Emperor's mind and it was extremely weak. No problem. The Dark Emperor said. Whoosh. Following that, the Dark Emperor and the red demon rushed out immediately, one against Jiao Ying and the other against Jiao Yu. Without using the red demon sword, the red demon's cultivation was around the late-stage Yuan Dan realm and he could fight against an early-stage Yin-Yang realm martial artist, but he couldn't kill them. Once he used the flying sword, he could even find a way to kill an early-stage Yin-Yang realm martial artist. However, if he relied on himself to kill an early-stage Yin-Yang realm martial artist, it would cause too much damage to his body and it wouldn't be worth it. If Ningyu wielded the red demon sword, he could easily kill an early-stage Yin-Yang realm martial artist. However, the prerequisite was that Ningyu could only use it once within a short period of time due to the density of his Yuan Qi. One time would be able to drain Ningyu's Yuan Qi completely, causing Ningyu to be completely helpless. On the other hand, the Dark Emperor felt much less pressured against an early-stage Yin-Yang realm martial artist. In fact, the Dark Emperor and Jiao Ying were fighting back and forth, and it would be difficult to determine the victor in a short period of time. Ningyu knew that the current situation was very critical. Even if the Dark Emperor and the Red Demon both won, they would still be in danger once Wen Hong made a move. In for a penny, in for a pound. Let's kill Wen Yi as well. Ningyu wasn't an indecisive person. Since he had completely fallen out with Wen Hong, there was no need to hold back. Absolute sword wave. The Yuan Qi in his sea of consciousness was injected into the soul-breaking sword as Ningyu stabbed out. Suddenly, a sword wave separated from the soul-breaking sword and attacked Wen Yi at an extremely shocking speed. Wen Yi was already seriously injured. Against the absolute sword wave, only death awaited him. Kai. Just as the absolute sword wave was about to hit Wen Yi, a pitch-black figure suddenly emerged from the depths of the Snow Domain Pavilion and appeared in front of Wen Yi. The black figure raised his sleeves and a cold gleam swept out, colliding with the absolute sword wave. The moment the cold gleam collided with the absolute sword wave, it was dispersed. Swoosh. Chapter 338. Sh**T. The sudden change caused Ningyu's expression to change drastically. He did not have time to think and immediately waved the broken soul sword in his hand, slashing out several shocking sword waves. Kai. The power of the cold light was beyond Ningyu's expectations. It only dissipated completely after the last absolute sword wave was destroyed. Buzz. In the next moment, an old man in a black robe slowly appeared. Yin-yang stage. Peak early stage. Ningyu's heart sank when he sensed the powerful aura emitted by the black-robed old man in front of him. Although the black-robed old man's cultivation had not reached mid-stage yin-yang stage, it was not far from it. He had already reached early-stage yin-yang stage. It could be said that as long as the black-robed old man was willing, it was very likely that he could advance to mid-stage yin-yang stage within 3 days. Wen Hong, who was mid-stage yin-yang stage, was already troublesome for Ningyu. Now there was another martial artist at early-stage yin-yang stage. Ningyu's situation instantly became very dangerous. Ding He, that old fart is willing to compromise. Wen Hong asked in a deep voice as he looked up at the black-robed old man. He did not compromise, but there was a new development. The black-robed old man called Ding He said. What development? Wen Hong asked. He raised 2 conditions. As long as we satisfy both of them, he will compromise, Ding He said. First, he wants us to ensure Lu Wei's safety. Second, he wants us to do everything we can to help him refine the regeneration pill that he has yet to refine. Hearing Ding He's words, Wen Hong fell into deep thought. He could satisfy the first condition, and he could satisfy it very easily. Leaving Lu Wei alone was not much of a threat to him. However, there was no way he could satisfy the second condition even if he wanted to. There was a problem with the refining of the regeneration pill. Unless he found a late-stage 8th grade alchemist, no one could solve the problem. Even Elixir King Dan Chunzi was only an early-stage 8th grade alchemist. In the capital, apart from Dan Chunzi, probably only Danwu College had a 8th grade alchemist. At this juncture, he would definitely not go to Danwu College to look for an 8th grade pill refinement master. Thinking up to here, Wen Hong said gloomily, might as well go all the way and finish all of them. Absolutely not. Ding He hurriedly said, that old bastard controls at least 2/3 of the resources of Snow Domain Pavilion. If we kill him, even if we control Snow Domain Pavilion, it will be as good as nothing. This is a little troublesome. Wen Hong thought for a moment, and then his eyes lit up as he said, bring Lu Wei to that old geezer and use her as a hostage. I don't believe that old geezer won't give in. I'm afraid not. After pondering for a while, Ding He said, when I went to see that old bastard just now, he was already in a coma. Those 2 conditions were also put forward by his right-hand man. Also, in order to prevent us from using Lu Wei as a hostage, that old fart had long transferred his resources to his right-hand man, making it impossible for us to do anything. In that case, there is no need for Lu Wei to stay. Go and kill all of them now. Wen Hong's face was a little ugly. Previously, he had been busy cultivating in Snow Domain Pavilion and had no time to interrogate Lu Wei's father. Who would have thought that Lu Wei's father would be so cunning and have thought of everything, making it impossible for Wen Hong to do anything? Kill these small fries. Give me 1 minute. Ding He's lips curled up as he immediately rose from the ground and charged straight at the Dark Emperor. Bang! Ding He was so fast that before the Dark Emperor could react, his fist had already landed on the Dark Emperor's huge body. Poochie. After being hit by Ding He, who was close to the middle stage yin-yang stage, the Dark Emperor was sent flying several feet away and spat out a mouthful of dark red blood. Swoosh. After sending the Dark Emperor flying, Ding He raised his eyebrows and instantly came to Hong Mo's side. Violent yuan qi fluctuations appeared on Ding He's palm as he grabbed at Hong Mo. Ding He also felt that the red flying sword was unusual. After all, this was the first time he had seen a flying sword that could contend with an early-stage yin-yang stage martial artist. It would be a little unreasonable not to grab it and study it. Pa. Seeing that Ding He was attacking him, Hong Mo did not dodge. Instead, he floated in the air and did not move. The Red Fiend did not move, which gave Ding He time. He grabbed the Red Fiend sword in his hand. Oh! Ling! Oh no! Ding He frowned slightly when he felt the powerful killing intent emitted by the red flying sword. Just as he was about to speak, his expression changed drastically as he hurriedly threw the red flying sword. However, Ding He's speed was clearly slower by half a beat. Before he could throw the red flying sword out, The red flying sword transformed into a human form with a shake of its body. Hong Mo, who had transformed into a human form, quickly attacked with his left hand, and his 2 fingers gradually enlarged in Ding He's eyes. Ah! Ah! Finally, Hong Mo's 2 fingers pierced into Ding He's eyes as he screamed like a pig being slaughtered. Poochie! Hong Mo did not continue fighting after his attack succeeded. Instead, he quickly retreated. However, in the process of retreating, Hong Mo opened his hands. In his hands, there were 2 bloody eyeballs. Damn it! Damn it! I'm going to tear you apart. With his eyeballs dug out, Ding He let out a heart-wrenching scream. As a peak early stage yin-yang stage martial artist, he was actually ambushed by a flying sword. How was he going to survive in the capital if word got out? Most importantly, both of his eyeballs had been dug out. If they were not treated in time, he might become blind in the future. Give me back my eyeball, and I'll spare your life. After a short scream, Ding He regained his senses. To him, the most important thing was not to kill Hong Mo but to snatch his eyeballs back. Ha ha ha. Red skin, well done. After being forced back by Ding He, the Dark Emperor was filled with anger and was extremely indignant. If not for the fact that he had expended too much energy fighting Jiao Ying, he would not have been ambushed by Ding He. Now that he saw Ding He's eyeballs being dug out, he was extremely happy. In an instant, he flew to Hong Mo's side and grabbed both of Ding He's eyeballs in his hands. What a fresh eyeball, and it's still very fresh. If I swallow it, I'm afraid my strength will improve slightly. The corner of his mouth curled up, the Dark Emperor waved the eyeball in his hand and said with a smile, "Don't act recklessly." Seeing the Dark Emperor's actions, Ding He was quite frightened. Once the eyeballs were swallowed by the Dark Emperor, he would really cry to death. It's not impossible for me to not act recklessly, but that depends on whether or not I have enough sincerity. The Dark Emperor was not in a hurry to devour Ding He's eyeballs, but used them as a bargaining chip. One word, let us go, and I can return your eyeballs to you. Hearing this, Ding He's expression was gloomy and uncertain, as he made an intense choice in his heart. Chapter 339. Fart. Just as Ding He was wavering, Wen Hong suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood and his face turned pale. As for Wen Pai, who was standing in front of Wen Hong, his eyes had turned white and he had completely lost his breath. Crack. Standing up from the ground, Wen Hong clenched his fists so hard that they made cracking sounds. His eyes shone with a terrifying light. Whoosh. In the next moment, a terrifying murderous aura was emitted from Wen Hong's body and pressed down on Ningyu. Wen Pai is dead. You shall be buried with him, Wen Hong said coldly. Swish. Swish. Feeling the terrifying killing intent from Wen Hong, the Dark Emperor and the Red Devil appeared in front of Ningyu. Their auras swept out at the same time and clashed with Wen Hong's killing intent. Fart. Fart. Although the Dark Emperor and the Red Devil were not weak and could fight against early-stage Yin-Yang realm warriors, Wen Hong was enraged and the killing intent on his body was not something they could withstand. The Dark Emperor and the Red Devil spat out 2 mouthfuls of blood. Their faces were as pale as Wen Hong's. Solitaire. Facing Wen Hong's remaining killing intent, Ningyu did not dare to be careless. He quickly waved the broken soul sword in his hand and slashed out a powerful sword wave. TSK TSK. Fortunately, Ningyu had already cultivated Solitaire to the intermediate realm. Otherwise, he might have been injured by Wen Hong's killing intent. Even so, Jiyu Jianbo was only barely able to block Wen Hong's killing intent. If not for the Dark Emperor and the Red Devil supporting him, Ningyu would have been severely injured. Bam! The Dark Emperor's eyes were cold. With a little force, he crushed both of Ding He's eyeballs. Stupid dog, I won't let you off. Although Ding He's eyeballs were gone, as a peak early-stage Yin-Yang realm warrior, his senses were not weak. Feeling his eyeballs being crushed, Ding He yelled and immediately rose from the ground. His body was like a bolt of lightning as he charged towards the Dark Emperor. He made up his mind. Even if the Heavenly King came, he would still kill this black dog and make it into a pot of dog soup. Humph. Now that you've lost both of your eyeballs, your strength has dropped by at least 30%. Towards Ding He's attack, the Dark Emperor did not take it to heart. Instead, he snorted coldly, "The current you, how are you going to fight with me?" The Dark Emperor was confident that he could contend against Ding He. If he exposed his race, he was even confident that he could kill Ding He in his heavily injured state. What if we are included? Jiao Ying and Jiao Yu took a step forward and stood on both sides of Ding He. If I'm not wrong, the two of you should have swallowed the heart-devouring pill. Right at this moment, Ning Yu said in a deep voice, "The heart-devouring pill is a 7th-grade medicinal pill. Every 7 days, all of you will suffer a tearing pain." "How did you know?" Hearing this, Jiao Ying and Jiao Yu were shocked. In the capital, there were only 2 martial artists who knew that they had taken the heart-devouring pill. Ding He was one, Wen Hong was the other. They did not mention to Ning Yu that they had taken the heart-devouring pill. "How did Ning Yu know?" "If I'm not wrong, you have to listen to Wen Hong's orders because of the heart-devouring pill." Ning Yu continued, "I can tell you very clearly that as long as you stop now, I will give you 2 antidotes for the heart-devouring pill 3 days later." Although they were overjoyed, Jiao Ying and Jiao Ying did not lose their rationality. "How can we believe you?" Pointing at Lu Wei, Ning Yu said, "She is the daughter of the Snow Domain Pavilion's leader. Not long ago, she took the heart-devouring pill just like the 2 of you. The Dean of the Sacred Institute promised me one thing. I will personally ask him to help me refine a 7th-grade detoxification pill to neutralize the effects of the heart-devouring pill in your body. The heart-devouring pill is not an ordinary 7th-grade pill. To completely neutralize the effects of the pill, you must refine a supreme-grade detoxification pill." Jiao Ying said in a low voice, "The Dean of the Sacred Institute, Dongfang Ji, is only an early-stage 7th-grade alchemist. He can't possibly refine a supreme-grade detoxification pill. If you don't believe me, there's nothing I can do." Ning Yu said calmly, "There's only one chance. If you miss this opportunity, you won't get another one. By then, you will be enslaved by Wen Hong for the rest of your lives. Rather than dragging out an ignoble existence, why not take a gamble?" He, the heart-devouring pill I gave them was not an ordinary heart-devouring pill. It was an improved heart-devouring pill. Wen Hong did not rush to attack. Instead, he smiled, "Even a supreme-grade detoxification pill cannot completely neutralize the effects of the pill. To completely neutralize the effects of the pill, you need a supreme-grade detoxification pill." A supreme-grade detoxification pill. Hearing this, Jiao Ying and Jiao Yu's heart sank. A supreme-grade detoxification pill. Most likely, even Alchemy King Dan Chunzi did not dare to say that he could refine it 100%, let alone an early-stage 7th-grade alchemist Dongfang Ji. Thinking up to here, Jiao Ying and Jiao Yu did not waste any more time either. They immediately moved out and launched an attack at the Dark Emperor. As the saying goes, a bad life is better than a good death. Right now, in their hearts, that was what they were thinking. Wen Hong, I have to say, you are the most shameless martial artist I have ever seen. Seeing that Jiao Ying and Jiao Yu did not fall for it, Ning Yu turned around and said to Wen Hong, "Your own son is dead and you can still smile?" Ha ha ha. Wen Hong laughed out loud and said, "Those who do great things don't bother about trifles. I have 2 sons. One is dead, there's still one. Is that so?" The corner of Ning Yu's mouth curled up. Then, he pointed at Wen Yi and said, "You better take a look at Wen Yi first." Wen Hong's heart trembled and he hurriedly shifted his gaze towards Wen Yi, only to see Wen Yi standing on the spot. His eyes were lifeless like a wooden pillar. Whoosh! At the same time, a blood-red flying sword rushed out from under Wen Yi's clothes and arrived in front of Ning Yu in the blink of an eye. Actually, when Wen Hong and Ding He were conversing, Ning Yu had quietly taken out the red demon sword and flew to Wen Yi's side with extreme caution. The red demon sword was a king-level top-grade flying sword and already possessed the ability to tear through the void. In addition, Wen Hong's attention was not on Ning Yu. Therefore, Ning Yu was able to succeed and let the red demon sword tear through the void and appear beside Wen Yi. Moreover, Ning Yu placed a nether spirit pill that he obtained from Wen Yi on the red demon sword. In that instant, it entered Wen Yi's body and caused Wen Yi to become a ghostly corpse. During the Sacred Institute's assessment, Ning Yu won a 7th-grade elixir from Wen Yi. That 7th grade elixir was the nether spirit pill. Now that it was returned to its rightful owner, it seemed a little ironic. Ghostly corpse. Wen Hong's expression completely darkened as he looked at the wooden Wen Yi. Up until now, his two sons, Wen Yi and Wen Pai, had both died at Ningyu's hands. Rustle. In the next moment, Wen Hong flicked his sleeve and a jade bottle appeared in his hand. Since you like turning others into ghostly corpses so much, then I will turn all of you into ghostly corpses today. Wen Hong's expression was extremely gloomy as he waved the jade bottle in his hand. Chapter 340. Surging wind old fart, if you want to turn us into spectre corpses, let's see if you have the ability to do so. Right at this moment, the Dark Emperor and the Red Devil flew to Ningyu's side. The Dark Emperor said in a deep voice, in order to treat that trash, Wen Pai, your strength has dropped by at least 20%. The three of us might not be a match for you if we join forces. Ha ha ha. Laughing out loud, Wen Hong said coldly, even if I only have 50% of my strength left, killing the three of you will be as easy as blowing off dust. But don't worry, I won't kill you. Instead, I'll turn you into spectre corpses. The moment the word corpse fell, Wen Hong rose from the ground and appeared in front of the Dark Emperor. He raised his right fist and punched towards the Dark Emperor's head with a violent Yuan Qi wind. I want to see if you can still scream when death is at hand. The corner of Wen Hong's mouth curled up as if he could see the tragic scene of the Dark Emperor's head exploding. Solitaire. Red Devil sword wave. In the blink of an eye, Ningyu immediately waved the soul-breaking sword and slashed out a shocking sword wave. The Red Devil did not dare to be negligent. He quickly turned into a flying sword and slashed out a sword wave. Kai Kai. However, the two sword waves did not cause much trouble for Wen Hong. He waved his sleeves and two cold rays of light shot out, colliding with the sword wave. The moment they collided, the two sword waves dissipated at the same time. Seeing the sword wave dissipate, Wen Hong was slightly stunned. His fist paused in the air for a second before striking towards the Dark Emperor's head. Swish. The Dark Emperor seized this fleeting opportunity and used all his strength to escape to Ningyu's side. Go. In the next moment, the Dark Emperor's body suddenly grew, and a pair of purplish gold wings appeared on his back. Ningyu was not an indecisive person. Seeing the Dark Emperor grow, he grabbed Lu Wei and leaped onto the Dark Emperor's back. As for the Red Devil, he turned into a red flying sword and entered the Red Devil sword's body. Swish. The Dark Emperor flapped his purplish golden wings in a frenzy and turned into a blur as he flew toward the outskirts of the capital. In fact, the Dark Emperor's first thought was to return to Danwu College, because Ningyu was a core disciple of the Sacred Academy. Danwu College would not allow Wen Hong to behave atrociously there. However, this thought flashed through the Dark Emperor's mind. After all, they had killed two of Wen Hong's sons and gouged out Ding his eyes. Others would definitely fight them to the death. As the saying goes, you can hide the first time, but you can't hide forever. There would be a great battle between them and Wen Hong sooner or later. To Ivory City. Almost instantly, Ningyu thought of a good place to go. Sit tight. Hearing Ningyu's words, the Dark Emperor flapped the purplish gold wings on his back with all his might and disappeared instantly. Wen Hong wasn't worried at all when he saw Ningyu and the others disappear. He frowned and said to Ding He, "You stay in Snow Pavilion. Don't touch the formation before I come back. Tomorrow is the 7th day. If you don't touch the formation, everyone inside will die," Ding He said in a deep voice. "Can you guarantee that you will come back before tomorrow night?" He, before tomorrow night? Wen Hong said with an evil smile, "I will be back in 6 hours at the latest. What you need to do is to make sure that Snow Pavilion is not in chaos during these 6 hours. By the way, it might not be a bad thing for you to not have eyes." Just when he was about to leave, Wen Hong stopped. "I have a special cultivation skill about eye skills. I will teach it to you when I come back." Whoosh. As soon as he finished speaking, Wen Hong's figure gradually turned illusory. Soon, the illusory figure turned into nothingness. Swish. Swish. In the pitch-black sky above the capital, two figures flashed across the sky like comets. One of them was the Dark Emperor, carrying Ningyu and Lu Wei on his back. The other figure was naturally Wen Hong. He followed behind the Dark Emperor unhurriedly, not in a hurry to catch up with them. It's most likely the heaven-swallowing dog and the king flying sword. Looking up at the huge black dog in front of him, Wen Hong was slightly excited. He vaguely felt that the Dark Emperor was the heaven-swallowing dog, but he wasn't too sure. He needed to find a place to confirm it. If the Dark Emperor was really the heaven-swallowing dog, he might get unexpected benefits if he captured the Dark Emperor and sent him to the patriarch of the royal family. He might even get enlightenment and advance to the late-stage yin-yang realm. Also, Wen Hong determined that the Red Devil was a spiritual body, and the flying sword that could produce a spiritual body was at least of the king rank. With his mid-stage yin-yang realm cultivation, if he had the king rank flying sword, his strength would at least double. It would not be impossible for him to fight against a late-stage yin-yang realm martial artist. Run, continue to run. Run to a place without people as soon as possible. Thinking of the heaven-swallowing dog and the king-rank flying sword, Wen Hong was a little excited. He even wanted to give the Dark Emperor a push from behind and get him to leave the capital as soon as possible. While the Dark Emperor and the others were flying at full speed, several experts in the capital sensed it and looked at the sky above the capital. In a secret room in the palace, an old man sat cross-legged with a middle-aged man standing behind him. The middle-aged man said, "Ancestor, should we send someone to take a look?" The old man's eyes lit up. These are troubled times. The corpse sect is likely to launch a strong attack on the great Xia kingdom. We must be careful. But the middle-aged man frowned. One of them seems to be Wen Hong from the Snow Domain Pavilion. I received accurate information that Wen Hong's son, Wen Yi, has been in contact with the corpse sect recently. The old man's face turned cold. He pondered for a moment and said, "If that's the case, we can send someone over." The old man asked again, "By the way, is there any news of the heaven-swallowing dog?" The middle-aged man shook his head and said, "Not yet." The old man said, "I don't want this matter to drag on for too long. We must find the heaven-swallowing dog before the corpse sect attacks." In the Danwu College, a voice came from the forbidden area, "Send someone over." In the Drunken Cloud Manor, the current manor lord, Xiao Chang, looked at the two figures above his head and whispered, "It is actually Wen Hong. It seems like we have to ask Elder Zhu to come out." In the assassination pavilion, an old man murmured, "At this critical moment, Wen Hong actually dares to leave the capital. There must be something fishy going on." In the black market, a whisper came, "Let's go take a look." Capital, Zhong Clan. Zhong Jun paced back and forth in the room before sitting down on a chair and saying, "Are you sure it is the black dog at the gate of the capital?" Beside Zhong Jun, an illusory figure that fused with the space said, "I am sure it is. Wen Hong is behind that black dog. Letting you hide in the Snow Domain Pavilion was the right choice. Although you are only at the half-step yin-yang realm, your concealment technique is something that even late-stage yin-yang realm martial artists can't find." Nodding his head, Zhong Jun said, "I know Wen Hong. He won't do anything without benefits. Since he allowed the black dog to leave the capital, he must be doing something shady. I can't leave the Zhong clan. How about this? You take the evil blood guards with you and see what Wen Hong is up to." At this moment, the capital was in an uproar. In addition to the top forces, the rest of the second-rate forces also sent people to leave. Obviously, they had the same idea as Zhong Jun. However, the mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. Chapter 341. Deputy Hall Master, that old fart sure is fast. Turning back to look at Wen Hong, who was gradually approaching him, the Dark Emperor's expression turned extremely cold. After leaving the capital, he increased his speed to the limit and rushed to Ivory City as fast as possible. However, Ivory City was very far away from the capital. Even if the Dark Emperor flew at full speed, it would take him 2 to 3 days to reach. "Ningyu, why don't we stop and fight it out with Wen Hong?" Gritting his teeth, the Dark Emperor said fiercely, "Now that Wen Hong is not at his peak, we can use this opportunity to give him a fatal blow." No. Ningyu rejected the Dark Emperor's idea without hesitation. At this moment, Wen Hong was furious. It was not wise to fight it out with him now. If this goes on, he will catch up to us sooner or later. The Dark Emperor's tone was anxious. After flying at full speed for so long, he had consumed a lot of energy. On the other hand, Wen Hong seemed to still have energy left. Since Wen Hong would catch up to him sooner or later, he might as well fight to the death now. He might even be able to kill Wen Hong here. Split up. After a moment of silence, Ningyu said, "See you in Ivory City in 3 days." Split up. The Dark Emperor was stunned. If we split up, Wen Hong will only take us down one by one. Actually, what the Dark Emperor said was not without reason. If he and Ningyu were together with the Red Fiend, they could still fight against Wen Hong. Once they split up, they would definitely be taken down by Wen Hong. If we split up and run, we still have a chance of survival. If we continue to run together, we will become live targets, Ningyu shouted. All right. After pondering for a second, the Dark Emperor gritted his teeth and said, "But I have a request. Lu Wei will follow me. You and Red Skin will follow." As he said that, the Dark Emperor wrapped his tail around Ningyu and swung him forward. At the same time, the Dark Emperor turned to Wen Hong and said, "Old fart, come and chase me if you can." Swoosh. Then, the Dark Emperor wrapped his tail around Lu Wei and fled at full speed. Wen Hong did not expect Ningyu and the Dark Emperor to split up and escape. However, he did not stay for long this time. Instead, he chose to chase after Ningyu. Although it was highly possible that the black dog was a sky devourer hound, he did not want to take the risk before he could confirm it. In his opinion, as long as he captured Ningyu, the black dog would definitely return. Solitaire. As he fled, Ningyu swung the absolute soul sword. Waves of sword waves formed and blasted at Wen Hong, who was behind him. Insignificant skill. Solitaire at the middle realm did not affect Wen Hong in the slightest. On the contrary, Solitaire had ignited Wen Hong's fighting spirit. His speed gradually increased, and he was getting closer and closer to Ningyu. If I can advance to the peak of the true martial realm and cultivate Solitaire to the great accomplishment realm, I might be able to pose a threat to Wen Hong, who is in the middle stage of the yin-yang realm. At this moment, Ningyu desperately wanted to improve his cultivation and cultivate Solitaire. However, he knew what he had to do now. 1 word, escape. 2 words, escape. If he was 1 step late, he would be in an irreversible situation. Whoosh. However, after Ningyu ran at full speed for 2 hours, a crack suddenly appeared in the space in front of him. Then, an old man in a black robe appeared. A martial artist in the middle stage of the yin-yang realm. Sensing the powerful aura emitted from the old man in a black robe, Ningyu's heart sank. Wen Hong alone had already made him anxious. Now that there was a black-robed old man in the middle stage of the yin-yang realm, his fate was almost sealed. Vice Palace Master of the Ghost Palace. When the old man in a black robe appeared, Wen Hong stopped. He seemed to be familiar with the old man in a black robe. The plan has not started yet. Why are you here now? Why am I here? Why don't you take a look at what you've done? The black-robed old man called the Vice Palace Master coldly said, "The Snow Domain Pavilion is the key to this plan. If something happens to you, the plan will most likely be delayed. Your responsibility is to completely control the Snow Domain Pavilion. I'm not chasing after some random person. Several of the top forces in the capital have sent people to follow you. If it wasn't for the Palace Master personally coming out to deter them, I'm afraid you would still be under their surveillance." Hearing the first half of the old man's words, Wen Hong wanted to defend himself. But after hearing the second half, he was dumbfounded. He quickly spread out his perception to detect the situation behind him. The black-robed old man waved his hand and said, "Don't worry, the people following you have been led away by the Palace Master." Wen Hong doubtfully asked, "Why did the Palace Master personally come out?" "You don't need to ask about this." The black-robed old man said, "I came here because I have a mission for you. Return to the capital as soon as possible and spread the news that the Corpse Yin sect is going to attack the capital." As for the time, speaking up to here, the black-robed old man paused for a moment and then said, "Set it to be 3 days later." 3 days later? Wen Hong was surprised for a moment and then doubtfully asked, Is the Corpsean sect really going to attack the capital? The black-robed old man scolded, "Don't ask what you shouldn't ask." Seeing that the black-robed old man was about to get angry, Wenhong's heart skipped a beat. The last few times he met the black-robed old man, the black-robed old man's attitude towards him was very good, but now it had become very bad. From this, it can be seen that the Corpsean sect is definitely planning something big. Even if they don't attack the capital in 3 days, they will definitely make a big move. Thinking of this, Wenhong carefully said, "I can return to the capital, but before I leave, I want to kill this brat. A mere early-stage true martial realm trash, quickly deal with him." The black-robed old man looked a little impatient. He glanced at Ningyu, and then he rose from the ground and flew in the direction of Ivory City. His leaving just like that. The sudden disappearance of the black-robed old man made Ningyu a little confused. When the black-robed old man appeared, he thought that his chances of escaping were slim. Who would have thought that the black-robed old man was not interested in him and just glanced at him and directly left? "Run! Why don't you run?" Wenhong vented all his anger on Ningyu and said gloomily, "If you fall into my hands, I will let you know what it means to live a life worse than strangulation vortex." Before Wenhong finished speaking, Ningyu, who was in front of him, waved his sleeve and summoned the strangulation vortex that Wei Zhongtian gave him. Swish, swish, swish. Immediately after, 3 waves of terrifying devouring power rushed out of the vortex and swept towards Wenhong in unison. Wei Zhongtian said that the strangulation vortex could burst out 3 terrifying devouring forces, each of which could make an early-stage yin-yang realm martial artist tremble. Ningyu knew that one devouring force was not a threat to Wenhong, so he displayed 3 devouring forces at the same time. Not good. Wenhong's expression turned extremely ugly as he stared at the 3 devouring forces rushing towards him. The 3 devouring forces indeed gave him a very shocking feeling. Chapter 342. Mysterious Valley Run. After unleashing the 3 terrifying devouring powers, Ningyu immediately rose from the ground and fled into the distance. In fact, in order to escape this area as soon as possible, Ningyu did not hesitate to burn his soul power and increase his speed to the limit he could reach at his current stage. Damn it! Seeing Ningyu escape, Wenhong's face turned green with anger. However, he could not chase after him because the 3 terrifying devouring powers had already arrived in front of him and floated above his head. Kai Kai. The 3 devouring powers were extremely terrifying. Wenhong felt as if the air around him was being devoured. Helpless, Wenhong could only focus on resisting the devouring powers and temporarily give up on chasing after Ningyu. Swoosh. Ningyu used this opportunity to flee with all his might. Ningyu, stop. Ningyu had just flown at full speed for half an hour when he heard the voice of the Red Fiend in his mind. What's going on? Ningyu did not stop and asked as he flew. I feel a powerful energy around me, the Red Fiend said in a low voice. A powerful energy? Ningyu stopped with a swoosh. When he first met the Red Fiend had said that he had the ability to detect energy. Since the Red Fiend said that he felt a powerful energy at this juncture, the energy must be very dense. Otherwise, the Red Fiend would not be so stupid as to ask him to stop. After all, the 3 devouring powers could not stop Wenhong for long. Once Wenhong caught up, the consequences would be dire. Where is it? Ningyu asked in a low voice. Southeast. You will see a valley about 1 kilometer away. The energy is coming from there. The Red Fiend's tone was very certain. Without hesitation, Ningyu turned his head and flew in the southeast direction. There really is a valley. It only took Ningyu a few seconds to cross the distance of 1 kilometer. Looking at the valley in front of him, Ningyu frowned and did not enter the valley immediately. As the valley entrance was narrow, it could only accommodate 1 person. Surrounded by mountains, it looked like a cloth bag. In this kind of terrain, as long as there was 1 person blocking the outside, the people inside would not be able to come out. Moreover, when Ningyu released his perception, he did not sense any energy fluctuations in the valley. Trust me, the energy within the valley is extremely terrifying, and there's even hope for the Red Demon Sword to recover to the monarch level. At that moment, Red Fiend said solemnly. Hearing this, Ningyu was taken aback for a moment before a joyful expression appeared on his face. Right now, the Red Demon Sword was only a top-grade king-level flying sword, but at its peak, it was a royal-level flying sword. As long as the Red Demon Sword could be restored to the monarch level, Ningyu's strength would also increase greatly. What form does the energy here exist in? Yuan crystals? Or is it liquid? Ningyu was not a reckless person. He needed to determine the form of the energy first. Closing his eyes, Hongmo pondered for a moment before replying, the liquid seems to be within a cauldron. Pill furnace? Slightly taken aback, Ningyu asked, what grade is the cauldron? Shaking his head, Hongmo said, I'm not too sure because I can only sense energy. The shape of the energy is similar to a cauldron, so I think there should be a cauldron. Let's go in. Gritting his teeth, Ningyu took the lead and charged into the valley. As for Red Fiend, he transformed into a red flying sword and floated above Ningyu's head. Just as he was about to enter the valley, Ningyu collided with a barrier, and his body retreated several jong. Swoosh! Immediately, a cold light shot out from the barrier and appeared in front of Ningyu in an instant. At the critical moment, Red Fiend stepped forward and blocked the cold light for Ningyu. An invisible barrier. No wonder I didn't notice it earlier. Ningyu's expression turned ugly. A barrier had been set up at the entrance of the valley, which meant that the valley had been occupied by someone else. No matter how much energy there was, it belonged to someone else and had nothing to do with him. No matter how good someone else's stuff was, it was still someone else's. Ningyu would not take it by force. If he took it by force, what was the difference between him and the corpse sect? Of course, Ningyu was not a saint. As long as he was sure that the other party had done something bad, or that the other party was his enemy, it would be a waste not to snatch it. Master Zun, bad news. Someone has barged into the valley. At the same time, in a stone room in the valley, a peak primal core martial artist said hurriedly. What's there to be surprised about? When the leader left, he set up a barrier at the entrance of the valley. Unless you're stronger than him, you won't be able to enter the valley. In the stone room, an old man sat on the ground, and in front of him floated a huge cauldron. If Ningyu was here, he would definitely notice that the cauldron contained a vast amount of energy. Aren't you worried? When the leader left, he specifically instructed us to ensure that the elixirs. The peak primal core martial artist mumbled. What are you muttering to yourself about? Go out and see who's barging into the valley. Master Zun said coldly. The elixirs I'm refining are extremely important. In the next 3 hours, there can be no interference, or all will be for naught. You should know the consequences if you fail to complete the task that the leader has given you. Master Zun continued, after all, you're a peak primal core martial artist, and the person outside is only in the early stage of the true martial state. If you want to kill him, it'll be a piece of cake. Early stage of the true martial state? The peak primal core martial artist was taken aback, but soon relaxed a little. Since Master Zun said that it was an early stage true martial state martial artist, he must be right. This was because Master Zun was one of the top elixir masters in the corpse sect, and his elixir refining had reached the peak of the 7th grade. Swoosh. After a brief moment of daze, the peak primal core martial artist flashed out of the stone room. Not long after, the peak primal core martial artist appeared at the entrance of the valley. Peak primal core? Ningyu was just about to leave when he saw the martial artist that suddenly appeared in the valley, and he stopped in his tracks. Ningyu stopped not because the martial artist in the valley was a peak primal core martial artist, but because he sensed a trace of familiarity from this martial artist. The corpse sect. Ningyu's face darkened. This familiar smell came from the yin energy of the corpses. It really is an early-stage true martial state martial artist. The moment Naijin saw Ningyu, a smile appeared on his face. Master Zun was right. The person outside was indeed in the early stage of the true martial state. Without any hesitation, Naijin rushed out of the valley in the blink of an eye and stood in front of Ningyu. He first looked Ningyu up and down, then asked, "Why did you barge into the valley?" Naijin was not a hothead, and he did not choose to kill Ningyu immediately. Instead, He questioned him. In his opinion, a martial artist in the early stage of the true martial state would not dare to barge into the valley. This showed that this martial artist in the early stage of the true martial state must have an expert behind him. Chapter 343. Done in one move. Does this valley belong to your family? Ningyu frowned and asked. He was no match for Wen Hong, who was at the middle stage of the yin-yang stage, but Ningyu was confident that he could kill this peak Yuan Dan stage martial artist. However, before killing him, Ningyu had to figure out the situation in the valley. What other people were inside and whether there were any peak experts. In fact, after learning that the valley was occupied by the corpse sect, Ningyu's first thought was to enter the valley and obtain that energy. It was something that belonged to the corpse sect, it would be a waste not to snatch it. Oh, boy, you are very arrogant. Seeing Ningyu's reaction, Naijan's mouth slightly raised, revealing an evil smile. For a martial artist at the early stage of the real martial realm like you, I only need to use 10% of my strength to kill you. Naijan said, I will give you a chance to tell me who the martial artist behind you is, and I will leave your corpse intact. The martial artist behind me? Ningyu's heart moved, but he said calmly, I am from the Shuiyu Pavilion, and the martial artist behind me is of course the pavilion master of the Shuiyu Pavilion, Wen Hong. Wen Hong sent you here. Hearing this, Naijan's expression changed dramatically, and he immediately sneered, Wen Hong would not do such a stupid thing, don't lie to me. Shrugging, Ningyu said, believe it or not, it is up to you. This place was told to me by Pavilion Master Wen Hong. Oh, there are no more than 5 martial artists who know about this valley. Wen Hong is just a dog of the corpse sect, so it is impossible for the Ghost Palace to tell him such a secret location. Secret location? I don't think so. At most, there is some powerful energy in the valley, and anyone can find it. Ningyu said lightly. While speaking, Ningyu stared at Naijan's eyes, hoping to find some clues. Hearing Ningyu's words, Naijan's heart skipped a beat, and his eyes revealed a surprised expression. Master Zun once said that unless one's soul power reached the peak of the 7th grade, one would not be able to detect the powerful energy in the furnace. It was impossible for Ningyu's soul strength to reach the peak of level 7. Therefore, it was highly possible that Ningyu was right. Wen Hong was the one who told him about this place. Naijan's face darkened at the thought of this. The Ghost Talent Palace actually told Wen Hong about such an important location. I must report this matter to the palace master. There were 10 branches in the corpse sect. The branch hall that Naijan was in was called the Alchemist Hall. As the name suggested, most of the people in the Alchemist Hall were alchemists. He was also an alchemist, an early-stage 5th grade alchemist. The Ghost Talent Hall had always been at odds with the Alchemist Hall because the Ghost Talent Hall needed a large amount of medicinal pills and those medicinal pills were provided by the Alchemist Hall. This time, the Corpse Yin sect had sent out 5 sub-temples. Other than the Apothecary Hall and Ghost Talent Hall, there was also the Spirit Corpse Hall, Yin Energy Hall, and Martial Hall. The Spirit Corpse Hall specialized in controlling corpses. Everyone in the Yin Energy Hall was a freak who manipulated yin energy from corpses. As for the Martial Hall, it was a sub-temple formed by powerful martial artists. The 5 sub-temples had a clear division of labor. Before coming here, the leaders of the sub-temples had agreed that no one could interfere with the affairs of the other sub-temples. Now that the Ghost Talent Hall had violated the rules, Naijan naturally had to inform the Alchemist Hall master. Wen Hong also told me that there is another person in this valley besides you. Feeling the soul fluctuation from Naijan's body, Ningyu's eyes turned and he thought of a countermeasure. That person is also an alchemist, and his rank is not low. At the very least, he is a level 7 alchemist. Ningyu said in a deep voice. Damn it. Naijan was so angry that he stomped his feet. He immediately took out a jade tablet from his robe and exerted a bit of force in his wrist, wanting to crush the jade tablet. It's not good to be distracted now. Ningyu moved. When he didn't move, it was fine, but when he moved, it was shocking. Violent yuan qi fluctuations surged around Ningyu, and when Naijan's attention was distracted, he stabbed out with his sword. A powerful sword wave rushed out from the sword. Solitaire at the intermediate realm. At this moment, Ningyu displayed his trump card, Solitaire at the intermediate realm. Moreover, in order to deal a fatal blow to Naizhan, Ningyu did not use the soul-breaking sword, but the red demon sword. Although it had not recovered to its peak state, the red demon sword's grade was still at the king tier top grade. The king tier top grade red demon sword, in addition to the yuan qi that Ningyu used from the 3 illusory golden cores, the power of this absolute sword wave was terrifying. Ah! Unsurprisingly, Naizhan let out a scream as the sword wave pierced his chest, and his body flew back several feet. Fart! Naizhan spat out a mouthful of blood, and his face was deathly pale. Wiping the blood from the corner of his mouth, Naizhan clutched his almost pierced chest, and his face was extremely gloomy. If he had not been distracted, he would not have been stabbed in the chest by the sword wave. But it was too late to say anything. He had already suffered heavy injuries, and his strength had dropped to the freezing point. Now, even a Carnate stage martial artist could easily kill him, let alone a true martial realm martial artist at the early stage. Swoosh! After severely injuring Naizhan with one blow, Ningyu did not continue to attack. Instead, his figure flashed, and he came to Naizhan's side. Holding the jade token on the ground in his hand, Ningyu looked around, and then put it in his storage ring. I'll give you a chance now. Tell me who is in the valley, and I'll leave your corpse intact, Ningyu said lightly. Fart! Hearing this, Naizhan spat out another mouthful of blood. What goes around comes around. This year was especially unlucky. Just now, he was arrogantly saying this to Ningyu, but now it was the latter. It was a little ironic. Humph! Even if I tell you who is in the valley, you won't be able to enter. With a cold snort, Naizhan said, I admit that your attack just now was very strong, but how many times can you use it? Once. Twice. To tell you the truth, even if your strength doubled, you still won't be able to enter the valley. Hee, you won't shed a tear until you see the coffin. With a slight smile, Ningyu said to the red devil sword in his hand, Red devil, you seem to be able to devour the energy of martial artists, right? Whoosh! As soon as Ningyu's voice fell, the red devil suddenly rushed out of the red devil sword and turned into a figure dressed in a red robe. Spatial treasure. This flying sword of yours is a spatial magic treasure, Naizhan shouted the moment the red devil appeared. Spatial treasures were extremely rare, and spatial treasures that could store people were even rarer. It could be said that they were priceless. Naizhan was very confused. Why did a true martial realm martial artist in front of him have a spatial treasure that could store people? Could it be, someone from the Ghost Cai Palace gave it to him? Red Devil, although there isn't much primal core yuan qi in a martial artist's body, it's better than nothing, Ningyu said. No problem. Chapter 344. Press to ask. The Red Fiend sword is a double devouring flying sword. Upon hearing the Red Fiend's words, Ningyu was slightly shocked. He knew that the Red Demon sword could devour soul power, but this was the first time he had heard that it could devour vital energy. That's right, the Red Demon sword is a double devouring flying sword, the Red Demon said with a nod. Since that's the case, I'll let you control the good sword. With that said, Ningyu flicked his sleeve and threw the good sword to the Red Fiend. Pa! After catching the good sword, the Red Devil first smiled at Ningyu, then rose from the ground and charged at Naizhan. The Red Fiend was extremely fast. Before Naizhan could react, he had already arrived beside him. Naizhan's eyes were filled with fear as he watched the red flying sword grow larger and larger in his vision. He could feel that the god of death was very close to him. The Red Fiend didn't show any mercy as he stabbed the sword in his hand towards Naizhan's forehead. If Naizhan was unlucky enough to be stabbed, he would definitely die on the spot. At the critical moment, Naizhan used all the strength in his body to move his head to the side, barely dodging this fatal attack. Puff! However, after dodging the first fatal attack, Naizhan did not dodge the second. The next moment, the good sword left the Red Devil's hand and entered the wound on Naizhan's chest. When it entered Naizhan's body, the good sword instantly released a powerful suction force. It almost instantly devoured a tenth of Naizhan's yuan qi. Good sword's devouring power is indeed terrifying. Ningyu was shocked when he saw the rate at which Naizhen's yuan qi was decreasing. The speed at which Shan Jian devoured essence energy was indeed impressive. At this rate, it would not be long before Naizhen's essence energy was completely devoured. Naizhen, you can think about it and tell me who else is in the valley. Ningyu rolled his eyes and said, as you can see, it's as easy as blowing off dust if I want to kill you. Bah! Even if you kill me, I won't tell you. Naizhen said coldly as he resisted the powerful devouring force in his body. You're courting death. You can't blame me. Ningyu seemed to have guessed Naizhen's reaction. He was not angry. Instead, he said indifferently, you can cultivate your yuan qi back if it's devoured. However, once your soul power is devoured, it's very likely to cause fatal damage. Whoosh! Naizhen clenched his fists, his eyes filled with malice. Now that the jade token had been snatched away by Ningyu, it would be extremely difficult for him to inform the alchemist hall master. The only thing he could do now was to find a way to let Master Zun know about the situation here. However, just as Naizhen was about to unleash his soul, he felt a pain from the depths of his soul, causing him to involuntarily let out a miserable shriek. You don't play by the rules. Naizhen pointed at Ningyu and berated. Shrugging his shoulders, Ningyu said, what common sense? It's just a matter of whether to devour soul power or yuan qi first. By the way, I forgot to tell you. Suddenly, Ningyu seemed to have thought of something and said, I know a skill that can deprive people of their memories. So, even if you don't tell me who's in the valley, I can easily find out. You. Naizhen's face darkened and his body trembled uncontrollably. Naizhen had some understanding of the skill of depriving memories. As a 5th-grade alchemist, Naizhen had seen the alchemist hall master perform the skill of depriving memories. At that time, a 6th-grade alchemist refused to submit to the alchemist hall master, so the alchemist hall master performed the skill on him. Naizhen could still vividly remember the 6th-grade alchemist's miserable state when he convulsed. It had been imprinted in his heart. I'll tell you. Naizhen seemed to have made a difficult decision. But you have to promise me that you'll let me live. You don't have a choice. Ningyu said lightly. Master Zun is in the valley. Naizhen said, he's a 7th-grade alchemist and he's refining elixirs. What's Master Zun's level of cultivation? Ningyu asked. The peak of the primal core stage, Naizhen replied. After some thought, Ningyu asked again, what elixir is he refining? Naizhen said, I'm not sure what elixir it is, but I can tell you that the elixir cauldron in front of Master Zun contains extremely rich energy. Ningyu asked, is there anyone else besides Master Zun? Naizhen shook his head and said, no, there's only Master Zun in the valley. One last question. After a moment's thought, Ningyu said, how can I enter the valley without triggering the barrier? If you can't guarantee my safety, I'll never tell you. Naizhen gritted his teeth. I don't want to repeat myself, Ningyu said coldly. As a 9th-grade alchemist in his previous life, Ningyu knew the skill of depriving memories. Unless it was absolutely necessary, Ningyu did not want to use it. This was because the memory stripping technique could only be used on a martial artist with a weaker soul force. If it was forcefully used on a martial artist with a stronger soul force or on the same level as the user, then it would be fatal. Naizhen's soul power was at the beginning of the 5th grade, and so was Ningyu. Ningyu did not want his soul power to be damaged because of Naizhen. Therefore, Ningyu naturally didn't want to use the memory robbing technique if he could. If I tell you how to enter the valley, the leader will not let me go, Naizhen said in a low voice. If you don't tell me, I can kill you right now. Ningyu looked at the Red Devil. The Red Devil understood and immediately increased the devouring power of the good sword, instantly devouring 1/10 of Naizhen's soul power. The pain that came from the depths of his soul made Naizhen squeal like a pig being slaughtered, beads of sweat forming on his forehead. I'll talk. After clenching his teeth for 3 seconds, Naizhen said hurriedly, I have a token on me. As long as you place the token in the groove on the side of the barrier, an opening will appear. Then, Naizhen took out a token and threw it to Ningyu. After receiving the token, Ningyu looked at it, but did not find anything different. The only difference was that there was a big triangular character 4 pill on the token. Red Devil, go to the entrance and see if there's a groove, Ningyu said to the Red Devil. Swoosh. In a flash, the Red Devil arrived at the entrance of the valley. After a while, the Red Devil flew back. There's indeed a groove, a triangular groove. Looking at the triangular token in his hand, Ningyu pondered for a moment, then grabbed Naijun and went to the entrance of the valley. Smack. Ningyu tossed the token into the triangular groove without any deviation. Buzz. As soon as the token entered the groove, the barrier made a buzzing sound. Chapter 345. Soul Shield Ningyu, why don't I go in and check out the situation first? You can go in after I'm sure it's safe. The Red Devil pulled Ningyu, who was about to enter the valley, and said in a deep voice. Seeing that Ningyu was a little hesitant, the Red Demon continued, don't worry. I have already fused with the Red Demon sword. It won't be easy for ordinary people to kill me. After pondering for a while, Ningyu said, sure, but be careful. If it were in the past, Ningyu definitely wouldn't have let Red Fiend take this risk. After all, the Red Fiend in the past wasn't that strong. But it was different now. The Red Fiend had fused with the Red Fiend sword, and the Red Fiend sword was a supreme grade king flying sword. If others wanted to kill the Red Fiend, they would have to destroy the Red Fiend's body first. Otherwise, the Red Fiend would be an immortal existence. This was something that Ningyu was more at ease about. Whoosh. The next moment, Hong Mo's figure flashed, and he directly entered through the gap in the barrier. After entering the valley, the Red Fiend released all of his perception and began to probe his surroundings. After a while, Red Fiend retreated from the valley. What's going on? Ningyu asked. There is indeed only one warrior inside, and his strength should be around the peak of the primal core stage. Hong Mo said, in front of that warrior, there is a pill furnace. The energy inside the pill furnace is extremely huge. Looks like he's right. Ningyu struck Naijun's neck with his palm, knocking him out. Then, Ningyu and the Red Devil rose from the ground and carefully entered the valley. Buzz. As soon as he entered the valley, Ningyu's expression changed slightly. This was because he sensed a powerful soul force fluctuation within the valley. Peak level 7 soul strength. From this powerful fluctuation of soul power, Ningyu could accurately judge that the owner's soul power had reached the peak of level 7. There was even a high chance that he could improve further and ascend to early stage 8th grade. Although the strength of his soul power was not at the beginning of grade 8, the peak of grade 7 had already shocked Ningyu. Hong Mo, be careful. Ningyu had to be extremely careful when facing a warrior with a peak 7th grade soul power. There is only one person in this valley, and his level of cultivation is only at the peak of the primal core stage. Should we? As he spoke, the Red Devil stretched out his hand and swiped it across his neck. Don't act rashly for now. Ningyu said solemnly. Pinnacle 7th rank pill refinement masters had mastered some soul attack spells that could directly attack the depths of one's soul. Relatively speaking, a peak 7th grade alchemist was even more terrifying. In their hands, it was highly likely that they had some special pills, or some special offensive methods. After all, an alchemist at the peak of the 7th grade had to deal with yin-yang realm and even creation realm martial artists all year round. He would definitely have a way to protect himself. Damn it. What the hell is Naijun doing? He actually let outsiders into the valley. In the stone room, Zun Jianwen's expression was extremely gloomy. He had already started refining the elixirs and could not be disturbed, or all his efforts would be for naught. Most importantly, he did not want to stop refining the elixirs. Once he stopped refining the elixirs, the terrifying energy within the elixir furnace would dissipate. The Alchemist Hall had spent almost a third of its resources to obtain this terrifying amount of energy. If it dissipated here, Zun Jianwen could already guess the outcome. The Hall Master would definitely not let him off. Oh yes, the Hall Master is only an hour away from here. As long as I inform him now and hold on for another hour, everything will be fine. Suddenly, Zun Jianwen seemed to have thought of something and hurriedly wiped away the wisp of soul power that the Hall Master had left on the elixir furnace. Before leaving, The Hall Master had left a wisp of his soul power on the surface of the elixir furnace so that he could be the first to know the situation of the elixirs being refined. Now, it had become Zun Jianwen's last hope. What the hell is Zun Jianwen doing? At the same time, in a dense forest not far from Ivory City, a few martial artists were discussing something. One of the taller martial artists' expression changed and became slightly gloomy. I have something to do, so I will leave first. The taller martial artist said in a deep voice. Hall Master, tomorrow morning is the time to attack Ivory City. You won't run away, will you? Next to the taller martial artist, a slightly shorter martial artist said. The Alchemist Hall has always been famous for refining elixirs. This time, when we attack Ivory City, it is reasonable for others to hide behind us. Another martial artist said in a strange tone. Humph. Hall Master Gui Cai, if you don't speak, no one will think you are mute. The tall martial artist who was addressed as Alchemist Hall Master coldly snorted and said, Ivory City is easy to break through, but when we finally attack the Ivory Tower, without the fusion explosion pill, I want to see which one of you can enter the Ivory Tower. Hearing this, the other four martial artists' hearts trembled. The body explosion pill was a peak level 7 elixir, which was used to blast open the entrance of Ivory Tower. Without the body explosion pill, it was indeed difficult for them to enter Ivory Tower. This was because Ivory Tower was only open to the top 5,000 martial artists on the innate realm list, and they were all Hall Masters of the Corpse Sect. Their cultivation had long surpassed the Xiantian realm. It could be said that the Alchemist Hall was an important part of the attack on Ivory Tower. Without the Alchemist Hall, this mission would not be completed perfectly. Could it be that there is a problem with the body explosion pill? The Spirit Corpse Temple Master frowned. Very likely, I must rush over now. The Alchemist Hall Master did not continue to talk nonsense. His figure flashed, directly tore the void, and left the area. What are you so proud of? Don't you just know how to refine some elixirs? The Ghost Cai Temple Master curled his lips and said, in the Corpse Sect, the Ghost Cai Temple is the foundation. Don't talk too much. The Martial Force Temple Master said, if the Sect Master hears these words in the future, no one can protect you. Okay, don't talk anymore. Let's discuss tomorrow's plan to ensure that nothing goes wrong. The Yin Qi Temple Master waved his hand and said. Inside the valley, Ning Yu and Hong Mo released their perception and carefully probed the surrounding situation. It was better to be safe than sorry. Facing a peak 7th grade alchemist, it was very likely that they would fail miserably. After probing for about 10 minutes, Ning Yu and Hong Mo slowly withdrew their perception. Nothing. Looking at each other, Ning Yu and Hong Mo both shook their heads. Swish. Then, Ning Yu and Hong Mo's figures flashed and they arrived in front of the stone room where Zun Jianwen was. There must be a protective barrier in front of the stone room. Let's let the soul-breaking sword try first. Ning Yu directly took out the soul-breaking sword and threw it towards the stone door. Kai. As expected, before the absolute soul sword could come into contact with the stone door, it encountered a strong rebound and was bounced back. Grabbing the soul-breaking sword, Ning Yu carefully examined the sword body. Chapter 346. Chapter 346. Breakthrough soul force is stronger than the martial artists inside. Hearing Ning Yu's words, Hong Mo was slightly startled and immediately said, doesn't that mean that the strength of one's soul force must be at the peak of the 7th grade to break the barrier? Nodding his head, Ning Yu said, that is indeed the case. With my current soul force, it is basically impossible to break the barrier. Then what should we do? Do we just wait here? Hong Mo seemed a little anxious. The martial artists inside the stone room definitely had a high status in the Corpse Sect. If they stayed here for too long, the people from the Corpse Sect would definitely rush over. At that time, it would be very difficult to leave. I won't go so far as to wait. A sinister smile appeared on Ning Yu's face. With a thought, he summoned the Phantom Armor. The Phantom Armor was a low-grade heaven-rank magic treasure. Not only could it fly quickly, it could also drill into the ground. When Ning Yu had killed Master Leng, He had used the Phantom Armor's ability to drill into the ground to succeed. Most importantly, the Phantom Armor had been completely repaired by Ningyu and returned to its peak state. Pointing to his feet, Ningyu said, "We can't go in from the main entrance. We can go in from here. Go in from underground." Hong Mo was stunned at first, but then he came to a realization. He had heard about the Phantom Armor's drilling ability from the Dark Emperor, so he had some understanding. "Go back to your main body first. Don't come out until I call you." With that, Ningyu suddenly jumped up and changed direction. With his head down and his feet up, he quickly rushed toward the ground. Swoosh! Seeing this, Hong Mo didn't dare to be negligent. He quickly turned into a cold light and entered his main body. Crack, crack, crack. At the same time, Zun Jianwen couldn't help but frown when he heard the cracking sounds coming from all around him. What's going on? Where is this sound coming from? The sound was sometimes strong and sometimes weak, causing Zun Jianwen to be secretly vigilant. At this moment, he had reached the critical period of alchemy. The body explosion pill was the key to this plan. The alchemist hall master had already given a death order that he could only succeed. If there was a mistake at this time, the consequences were not something he could bear. Clenching his teeth, Zun Jianwen forcefully separated a wisp of his soul power and came before the stone door. After a while, he retracted his soul power. The stone door is undamaged. Even the soul barrier outside the stone door is intact. Not good. However, before Zun Jianwen could finish speaking, his expression changed drastically. Because he saw the ground in front of him suddenly cave in, and a thin figure flew out from the ground. Looking at the thin figure floating in the air, Zun Jianwen's heart sank to the bottom. With the strength of his peak 7th grade soul force, he could naturally discover the cultivation of the skinny figure. Early stage of the martial arts realm, Zun Jianwen wasn't worried about Ningyu's cultivation. What he was worried about was the powerful fluctuations emanating from Ningyu's body. It should be a king-tier magic treasure. Zun Jianwen's heart thumped involuntarily. Since he brought along a king-rank magic treasure, it was sufficient to show that the martial artist before them wasn't simple. In fact, it was highly possible that the martial artist in front of him was a wolf in sheep's clothing. His true cultivation was far above the true martial realm. It really is the peak of the primal core stage. Slowly descending to the ground, Ningyu stared at Zun Jianwen and said, "And the strength of your soul has reached the peak of the 7th grade soul realm." But, at this point, Ningyu couldn't help but smile. "It seems like you can't get away." After a short pause, Ningyu continued, "If I'm not wrong, the elixir you are refining is called the Combined Explosion Elixir." What? Hearing this, Zun Jianwen's heart was in turmoil. In the alchemist hall, there were no more than 3 people who knew about the Combined Explosion Elixir. It could be said that even if he were to publicly refine elixirs in the Da Xia kingdom, not many people would know that he was refining the Combined Explosion Elixir. How did the martial artist in front of him know? Could it be that it was as he had guessed, that he was a wolf in sheep's clothing? Thinking about this, Zun Jianwen was even more shocked. "Me? I have no idea what you're talking about." Although he was shocked, Zun Jianwen didn't show it. Instead, he said coldly, "As an alchemist, you should know very well that others cannot be disturbed when they are refining elixirs. I'm giving you a chance now. Leave now, or else don't blame me for being rude." Zun Jianwen's attitude was very firm, all for the sake of scaring Ningyu away. In fact, he did not hesitate to display a little of his peak 7th grade soul strength to scare Ningyu. However, Ningyu was not one to be frightened easily. A mere peak 7th grade soul strength was not enough to scare him. Don't bluff. The Combined Explosion Elixir is not that easy to refine. Looking around the stone room, Ningyu said, "You're really lucky to be able to find this stone room. To refine the Combined Explosion Elixir, there are 2 conditions. Firstly, there must be sufficient energy, and it must be pure energy. Secondly, in the process of refining, there needs to be a large amount of energy to support it." Looking at Zun Jianwen, Ningyu continued, "With the strength of your peak primal core Yuan Qi, it's impossible for you to last until the Combined Explosion Elixir is formed. Hence, there should be a top-grade primal crystal mine under this stone room." Fat. Every word that Ningyu said was like a knife cutting Zun Jianwen's body. In the end, Zun Jianwen could not help but spit out a mouthful of fresh blood. You even know this? Who exactly are you? Spitting out blood also signaled the failure of this batch of combined explosion elixir. Zun Jianwen flew into a rage when he failed to refine the combined explosion elixir. He could not wait to rush forward and kill Ningyu. However, he knew that Ningyu was not a simple person. Even if he used all his strength, he might not be able to defeat Ningyu. After all, in order to refine the combined explosion elixir, he had expended too much energy. Now, his strength had dropped by at least 80%. Even his soul power was in a weakened state. Who I am is not important. What's important is that the pure energy in this furnace belongs to me. Ningyu would not tell Zun Jianwen that the reason why he knew that there was a top-grade primal crystal mine at the bottom of the stone room was because he had been probing underground for more than 10 minutes. Swoosh! In the next moment, a red flying sword rushed out from Ningyu's body and directly entered the furnace. A top-grade king-level flying sword. Seeing the red flying sword, Zun Jianwen almost shouted. It's just a king-level flying sword. There's nothing to be surprised about, Ningyu said lightly. Nothing to be surprised about. You think a king-level Dharma treasure is. Before Zun Jianwen could finish his sentence, his eyes widened and his face was full of confusion. Not only is this flying sword a king-level flying sword, but it's also a devouring flying sword. Whoosh! Zun Jianwen very clearly saw that after the red flying sword entered the furnace, it instantly exploded with a strong suction force. In an instant, the liquid in the furnace decreased by a lot. Chapter 347. The stratagem succeeded. Oh, right, I still don't know how to address you. Suddenly, Ningyu turned around and said to Zun Jianwen. Zun Jianwen. Zun Jianwen was startled. What is it? Shrugging, Ningyu said, nothing, just asking. Also, my name is Ningyu. Puff. Hearing this, Zun Jianwen spat out another mouthful of blood, his face livid with anger. Today, he really had 8 lifetimes of bad luck. Outside the valley was a defensive barrier set up by the leader of the alchemy division, and the stone chamber's entrance was also protected by a soul barrier. However, these 2 barriers were not broken, and Ningyu somehow came out of the ground without anyone noticing. Truly, it was hard to guard against underground. Zun Jianwen, I have a suggestion, but I don't know if you will agree to it. Ningyu rolled his eyes and said. What suggestion? Zun Jianwen thought of a countermeasure. It had been half an hour since he contacted the leader of the alchemy division. As long as he persisted for another half an hour, the leader of the alchemy division would arrive. At that time, Ningyu would become a fish on the chopping block, waiting to be slaughtered. Open your mind and let my soul force enter your mind. Ningyu's words were extremely shocking as he spoke. What? Hearing Ningyu's words, Zun Jianwen's expression changed drastically, and he even jumped up from the ground. If he really did that, he would most likely be controlled by Ningyu. After a brief moment of shock, Zun Jianwen fell into a dilemma. In his current state, he could not delay for another half an hour. Turning around to look at the decreasing liquid in the cauldron, Zun Jianwen clenched his fists and made up his mind. Then, he said in a low voice, Ningyu, I promise to open my mind. But you have to promise me one thing. Oh, tell me about it. Raising an eyebrow, Ningyu said without batting an eyelid. I know you want to control me, but I have a request. Zun Jianwen said, half an hour. After half an hour, I will open my mind and let your soul power enter my mind. Do you think I'm a fool? Ningyu sneered. Half an hour is too long. 15 minutes at most. Zun Jianwen's heart skipped a beat when he heard the first half of Ningyu's words. He felt that his plan was about to be ruined. But when he heard the second half of Ningyu's words, he felt slightly relieved. It was better to stall for 15 minutes than to be killed by Ningyu now. Ningyu immediately sat cross-legged, took out a few top-grade origin crystals from his bosom, and began to absorb them using the transformation spirit art. Just now, when he was underground, Ningyu took a break from his busy work and dug out several hundred pieces of top-grade essence crystals. Now that he could use it, he wouldn't have to worry about not being able to recover his essence chi after it was depleted. 15 minutes, I also need to rest. Seeing Ning Yu's actions, Zun Jianwen also sat on the ground. However, Zun Jianwen did not put his heart and soul into recovery. Instead, he divided a quarter of his soul power to pay attention to Ning Yu's movements. Right now, he was not Ning Yu's opponent. If Ning Yu suddenly attacked him, he would not even have a place to cry. Ning Yu was not afraid of Zun Jianwen's sudden attack. He put his heart and soul into recovery. Tick-tock, tick-tock. Time passed bit by bit. In the blink of an eye, 10 minutes had passed. Shua. Ning Yu stood up from the ground. Feeling the full essence in his sea of consciousness, Ning Yu nodded in satisfaction. Not good. The moment Ning Yu stood up, Zun Jianwen's body trembled. He hurriedly stood up and looked at Ning Yu with vigilance. However, Ning Yu did not seem to see him and paced back and forth in the stone room. Whoosh. After another 5 minutes, a red flying sword suddenly rushed out of the cauldron. Seeing this, Ning Yu's face lit up with joy. His figure rushed out and firmly grasped the red flying sword in his hand. It's still a supreme grade king grade flying sword? The waves coming from the red demon sword made Ning Yu slightly disappointed. This was because the red demon sword was still a king grade flying sword and had not advanced to the royal grade. Ning Yu, although the red demon sword has not recovered to the royal grade, its power has increased significantly. The red demon's voice sounded in Ning Yu's mind. Let me put it this way. The speed at which the red demon sword devours essence and soul power has increased by more than one level. I was waiting for you to say that. In the next moment, Ning Yu rose from the ground and arrived in front of Zun Jianwen. Extending his right hand, a wisp of soul power pulsed on his fingertip. Ning Yu said, 15 minutes have passed. You can open your mind and let this wisp of soul power enter, right? You want to control me? It's not that easy. Not only was Zun Jianwen no longer afraid, but he was also excited. After 10 minutes, he had recovered 80% of his strength. His soul power had also recovered to its peak. In other words, his soul power was now at the peak of the 7th grade. You want to control me with a mere early stage 5th grade soul power? Although he was excited, Zun Jianwen still pretended to be unwilling and said, Can you wait for a few more minutes? Me. I've already waited for 15 minutes, and you still want to wait. Since that's the case, I won't be courteous with you. I'll kill you here and put an end to all troubles. With that, Ning Yu took out the red demon sword and injected his essence into it. Wait. I promise you, alright? Zun Jianwen hurriedly said, I'll open my mind now and let your soul power enter my mind. That's more like it. Ning Yu kept the red demon sword and kept it in his robes. However, no one noticed that when Ning Yu kept the red demon sword in his robes, a red flying sword that was 100 times smaller than the red demon sword quietly attached itself to his fingernail. Following that, the soul power on Ning Yu's fingertip increased and the pulsation became more obvious. Are you ready? Ning Yu took a step forward and came to Zun Jianwen's side. I'm ready. Zun Jianwen slowly closed his eyes, looking like he was at the mercy of others. You closed your eyes and gave me a chance. The corners of Ning Yu's mouth curled up slightly and his finger suddenly moved forward and tapped on the top of Zun Jianwen's head. Hiss. A piercing pain came from his mind, causing beads of sweat to appear on Zun Jianwen's forehead. How can it hurt so much when soul power enters my mind? Zun Jianwen could not help but open his eyes and look at Ning Yu. You. What are you laughing at? When he saw the smile on Ning Yu's face, Zun Jianwen faintly felt that something was wrong. This was because he could see the excitement in Ning Yu's eyes. He could see a conspiracy, and he could see the smile of someone who had succeeded in a scheme. Don't you know what I'm laughing at? Ning Yu took a step back and casually snapped his fingers. Red Demon, it's time to show your real skills. Red Demon? Who's the Red Demon? Ah. Before the doubt in Zun Jianwen's eyes faded, he let out 3 consecutive screams. At this moment, he finally understood why Ning Yu had revealed that evil smile. Chapter 348. Chapter 348 Inch Sun Jianwen, do you know why I'm willing to wait 15 minutes? Ningyu smiled and said indifferently, you ought to be clearly aware that the red-colored flying sword in your mind is a top-grade king-rank flying sword, and 15 minutes of time is just enough for it to completely absorb the energy within the cauldron. Hearing this, Sun Jianwen's heart trembled and he quickly looked at the furnace. Poochie. Looking at the empty furnace, Sun Jianwen spat out a mouthful of blood as if he had seen a ghost. His face was full of confusion. Just now, he was afraid that Ningyu would suddenly attack him, so he focused all his attention on Ningyu and neglected the furnace. Who would have thought that his carelessness would cause the energy in the pill furnace to be sucked clean, leaving not a single bit behind? The devouring ability of a top-quality king-grade magic treasure is so strong. Sun Jianwen's face was pale. He had never imagined that the terrifying energy within the pill furnace would be completely devoured in just 15 minutes. However, since things had come to this, there was nothing he could do. For him, the most important thing was to get rid of the red flying sword in his mind as soon as possible. Otherwise, his soul force would be devoured sooner or later. Ningyu, tell me, what do I have to do for you to let me go? Sun Jianwen calmed down at the moment of life and death. His calmness was somewhat scary. Sun Jianwen's calm reaction was indeed out of Ningyu's expectation. Logically speaking, when facing death, people would struggle for a while. How could Sun Jianwen be so calm like a dead pig not afraid of boiling water? It's not too late if you let go of your mind now. After pondering for a while, Ningyu said, if I have a peak 7th grade alchemist as my slave, I won't need to refine pills by myself in the future. Although after refining all of Sun Jianwen's soul force, Ningyu was very likely to increase his soul force to the middle 5th grade, or even the late 5th grade, Ningyu was more inclined to control Sun Jianwen. However, Ningyu was more inclined to control Sun Jianwen. This way, not only could he have a free alchemist, he could also learn some things about the corpse yin sect. Your soul strength is only at the early stage of rank 5, and I am at the peak of rank 7. Even if I open my mind, it will be difficult for you to control me. Sun Jianwen said in a low voice. Haha, you don't have to worry about that, Ningyu smiled and said, as long as you open your mind, I have plenty of ways to control you. As a level 9 alchemist in his previous life, Ningyu was confident that he could easily control Sun Jianwen if Sun Jianwen opened his mind. Since that's the case, I'll open up my mind. Sun Jianwen did not hesitate. He immediately sat down cross-legged and completely relaxed his mind. The moment Sun Jianwen opened his mind, Ningyu controlled his soul force and directed it towards Sun Jianwen's sea of consciousness. Be careful, Sun Jianwen should not be willing to be controlled by you. Seeing that Ningyu was not on guard, the Red Devil quickly reminded him. Later, listen to my orders. As long as I let you make a move, immediately release the Red Devil's devouring power and devour Sun Jianwen's soul force. Ningyu knew that Sun Jianwen would definitely play tricks again, but he did not care. After all, a person with dreams would not be willing to be controlled by others, no matter what cultivation level or strength the person controlling him had. Kai Kai. The next moment, Ningyu's soul force entered Sun Jianwen's sea of consciousness and began to take over Sun Jianwen's sea of consciousness. No reaction. Contrary to Ningyu's expectations, he had already begun to take over Sun Jianwen's sea of consciousness, but Sun Jianwen did not react at all. Could it be? Sun Jianwen was a person without dreams. Without dreams, what was the difference between him and a salted fish? The more Sun Jianwen did not react, the more careful Ningyu became. He even slowed down the speed at which he controlled Sun Jianwen's sea of consciousness. If he were to fully control Sun Jianwen's sea of consciousness, he would only need 5 minutes to completely control it. Now that he had slowed down, he would need about 10 minutes to take over Sun Jianwen's sea of consciousness. Buzz buzz. For the first minute, Sun Jianwen did not react. His eyes were still closed and his mind was open. For the second minute, Sun Jianwen still did not react. His eyes were still closed and his mind was open. For the third minute, the fourth minute, all the way until the 5th minute, Sun Jianwen still did not react. And in these 5 minutes, Ningyu had already controlled half of Zun Jianwen's sea of consciousness. In just 5 minutes, Ningyu would be able to completely control Zun Jianwen's sea of consciousness. At that time, Zun Jianwen's life would be in Ningyu's hands. Whoosh! However, just after the 5th minute, Zun Jianwen's eyes suddenly opened. A powerful soul force burst forth from his mind and attacked the red flying sword. The reason why Zun Jianwen did not react in the past 5 minutes was because he was waiting for this moment. He hoped to force the red flying sword out of his body in one fell swoop. Red Devil, do it! At the critical moment, Ningyu shouted. Got it! Hearing Ningyu's words, the Red Devil did not hesitate and immediately mobilized the Red Devil sword. Suddenly, a shocking devouring power erupted from the Red Devil sword. This devouring power was extremely terrifying. It was so terrifying that even Ningyu felt his heart palpitate. He could not help but want to withdraw his soul force from Zun Jianwen's sea of consciousness. However, Ningyu knew that he now controlled half of Zun Jianwen's sea of consciousness. If he withdrew his soul force now, Zun Jianwen would very likely escape. Ah! At this moment, Zun Jianwen let out 2 more screams and his body fell heavily to the ground. Crack! Crack! The sound of his soul being devoured continuously caused Zun Jianwen's face to turn ashen and his body to twitch. Zun Jianwen had really gone for wool and come home shorn. He had originally thought that Ningyu was too engrossed in controlling his sea of consciousness and was distracted. Who would have thought that Ningyu had a backup plan just like him? Rumble. In his current state, Zun Jianwen had almost no way of resisting the powerful devouring power of the Red Devil sword. 3 minutes later, half of his soul force had been devoured by the Red Devil sword. Swoosh! Following that, the Red Devil sword darted out of Zun Jianwen's sea of consciousness and floated in front of Ningyu. Whoosh! In the next instant, the Red Devil sword's body shook, and the soul force it had devoured suddenly darted out and entered Ningyu's body. The sudden change caused Ningyu to be dumbstruck. The Red Devil sword had such a function? The soul force it devoured could be transferred to his body unconditionally? A series of questions surfaced in Ningyu's mind. However, Ningyu did not waste any time. He immediately mobilized his soul force and devoured the soul force that had entered his body. Bam! Before long, a dull sound came from Ningyu's body. Middle stage rank 5 soul force. Sensing the strength of his soul force, Ningyu was ecstatic. At this moment, his soul force had advanced to mid-stage rank 5 and was only 1 step away from late-stage rank 5. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories,